From the Nationwide News Network. Comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Ricardo Brooks.
In Nationwide News at this hour, National Integrity Action calls for Delroy Chuck to be reprimanded over controversial comments he made regarding statutory declarations of spouses and children of parliamentarians.
The majority of the municipal corporations have been flagged for accounting failures by the Auditor General.
Damian Crawford says the PNP will not tell Jamaicans its plans until the general elections are called.
There is no way we are saying nothing more until the JLP call the election.
NPTAJ backs call for safeguards to be put in place for teenagers who use social media.
St. Catherine South Police urging 8 wanted men to turn themselves in.
In news from the rest of the world, he's back. Donald Trump sworn in as 47th U.S. President.
And in one of his first acts, Trump shuts down app to help migrants seeking asylum.
In headline sports, West Indies women aim for first win at Under-19 Cricket World Cup in Malaysia tonight.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, as one of his last acts as U.S. President, Joe Biden posthumously pardoned Jamaica's first national hero, Marcus Garvey, chair of the U.S. Congressional Black Caucus, Yvette Clarke, and President of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, Stephen Golding, will join us.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we'll ask, what's your reaction to Joe Biden's pardon of Marcus Garvey? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio. You can also message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693 or leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide90FM.
And in the nation's business at 6:40, we bring you Nationwide's top 15 stories of the year that was 2024.
And at 7, it's Seismic Dialogue, a segment dedicated to promoting earthquake preparedness and safety during Earthquake Awareness Month. This week, you'll hear from head of the Earthquake Unit at the University of the West Indies, Kevin Tanku.
All these and more as we take you home on air, on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio, JM.com, and on the Nationwide app, available on Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, Monday, January 20, 2025.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. Executive Director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, Professor Trevor Monroe, is calling for Justice Minister Delroy Chuck to be reprimanded if he refuses to withdraw his controversial comment that is seemingly in breach of the Integrity Commission Act. Professor Monroe made the call on Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, produced program Let's Talk Justice on Nationwide 90 FM today. Shalois Michael reports.
The Justice Minister advised his colleague parliamentarians in the lower house last week against disclosing the salaries of their spouses or children to the Integrity Commission. The comment is a breach of the existing Integrity Commission Act. Since then, the opposition has called for his resignation, but Minister Chuck has rejected that call. Speaking with Nationwide News over the weekend, he apologized for his phrasing of the comment, claiming it was misinterpreted.
My statement was totally misinterpreted. It was not clear as it should have been, and for that I apologize. What my stated intention was related to the relevant members who indicated that their spouses had refused to provide the information, documentation, and verification of their salary, assets, and liabilities. So it was not a statement to say that members should flout the law. My presentation was directed to those declarants whose spouses were not prepared to indicate their salary, assets, and liabilities, and, to verify them when the IC asked for further information.
But according to Professor Monroe, that explanation is not enough. He's calling for the Justice Minister to be reprimanded if he refuses to withdraw the comment.
Position that was espoused and stated by Minister Chuck needs to be disavowed by him, if not by him, by the government, and that the minister must be reprimanded if he declines to withdraw and to apologize.
Professor Monroe says given that corruption is being treated as an active threat to democracy, now is the time to comply with these provisions.
Quite easily, and happens in so many other countries, a particular public official, so minded, whether MP or otherwise, can hide assets in the name of his wife. People can make big cash donations in the context of, say, an election campaign in return for favors, and that never appears on any statement that the MP or politician would make because it's not in his name. So the ease with which they can be used as conduits to hide corrupt assets or corruptly acquired income is what the law is designed to protect against.
And Executive Director of JFJ, Michael Jackson, says the silence from the government is deafening. She's urging the minister to issue a clear apology.
I don't think that is clarity being sought. I think it's almost the minister chastising the Integrity Commission for even asking for those things in the first place, notwithstanding the reality and the fact that is the Minister of Justice who piloted this bill into it becoming the act that we're now governed by. And I think the type of obfuscation coming from the government side is unfortunate because all that was required was an apology rather than trying to clarify what was clearly said. There was no misinterpretation from the public.
Shaloy Smichael for Nationwide News.
Opposition leader Mark Golding has added his voice to the call for Justice Minister Delroy Chuck to resign. The PNP called for Chuck's resignation after he appeared to advise parliamentarians not to comply with sections of the law which require their spouses to declare their salaries. Minister Chuck has since said his comments were taken out of context, but Golding says he must go.
We need a justice minister who encourages compliance with the rule of law and doesn't tell parliamentarians to violate the Integrity Commission Act. If I was Minister of Justice and I was saying the things that the current Minister of Justice was saying, I would have to take with myself. He must go.
Mr. Golding has described the state of governance under the JLP as a disgrace. He says more and more Jamaicans are calling for him to take the reins as Prime Minister.
How can he be giving incorrect, negligent advice to his own colleagues about what their obligations are under the law that is under his own portfolio? It is a disgrace what is happening in this country. I was at Rebel Salute last night, and I want to tell you, the amount of people there who see me and say to me, say, you know, say, me never vote yet, but in the next section, I have to vote for you because we need somebody like you to take us forward.
Opposition leader Mark Golding. He was speaking at a presentation rally for Danishka Williams as the party's caretaker in southwest St. Anne.
The overwhelming majority of municipal corporations were flagged for at least one lapse in accounting procedures by the Auditor General, Pamela Monroe Ellis, in 2024. That's according to the Auditor General's annual report tabled in the House of Representatives last week. The accounting concerns leave the corporations with billions of dollars in potential exposure. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
In the Auditor General's annual report, 10 of the 13 municipal corporations were flagged for accounting concerns. These are Portmore, St. Elizabeth, St. James, St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas, Westmoreland, Trelawney, Clarendon, and Hanover. One of the chief concerns raised was a lack of sufficient appropriate audit evidence, which limited the Auditor General's scope. For example, at the Clarendon Municipal Corporation, Mrs. Monroe Ellis says she was unable to express an opinion on the financial statements due to the pervasive absence of sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to support the transactions, account balances, and disclosures in the financial statements. The management of the corporation indicated that this was due to the age of the financial statements. It says there were significant challenges in providing some source documents within the time frame in which the audit needed to be executed. Mrs. Monroe Ellis says she was therefore unable to perform key audit procedures to determine whether the transactions, account balances, and disclosures were fairly presented in the financial statements. The financial exposure, according to Mrs. Monroe Ellis, was nearly $4 billion over 4 years between 2011 and 2015. This is comprised of cash and cash equivalents of $386 million, revenues of just over $1 billion, and expenditures of $2.42 billion. It was a similar story at the St. Mary Municipal Corporation, where the audit scope was limited due to the absence of sufficient appropriate supporting documents and records. Its exposure was also in excess of $4 billion. St. James had the highest level of financial exposure for a combined total of more than $10 billion over the period 2014 to 2018. This was comprised of $4.79 billion in revenue, $4.99 billion in expenditure, and $272 million in cash and cash equivalents. In response, the Ministry of Local Government says it continues its efforts to support the corporations in implementing a new accounting system. However, the timeline to acquire the system has again been adjusted due to the challenges of responding to the passage of Hurricane Beryl in 2024 and other unforeseen weather events. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
PNP caretaker for Northwest St. Catherine, Senator Damian Crawford, has vowed that his party will not reveal the policy plans it has for the country until Prime Minister Andrew Holness calls the general election. According to the senator, Labourites are known for stealing ideas.
Tonight I won't be giving no solutions. I hear nation narrow and island wide. Where is the PMP's solution? We know said nobody not thief like Labourite when time come for election.
Several political analysts have called on the People's National Party to outline its policy platform, or rather the policy platform it would pursue should it be successful in the election due later this year. The analysts say the PNP has not outlined a clear list of policies to improve the lives of Jamaicans. But Senator Crawford says the party will not reveal any plans before the date of the election is known. Speaking at a PNP candidate presentation in Southwest St. Ann on Sunday, he took particular aim at the Prime Minister.
I go to conference and said that students being absent is a problem. In 1 month, Holness go to his conference and said truancy is a problem. If just the one use my words and find that next word and then said this is a problem. So if him thief my word, then him now go thief my plan. There is no way we are saying nothing more until the JLP call the election. Then we will tell the people what our plans are.
Senator Damon Crawford, the PNP caretaker for Northwest St. Catherine.
And Senator Crawford has come to the defense of Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis after Prime Minister Holness blasted her recent report dealing with his signature social housing program. Mrs. Monroe Ellis flagged the program, arguing it was duplicating existing efforts and was in need of reform. Prime Minister Holness dismissed the report and appeared to accuse the Auditor General of ignorance and incompetence. But Senator Crawford says the Prime Minister is the one who has been incompetent.
Now the Auditor General spoke the truth that 3.4 billion with a B, not with a M, was granted to the housing project for Andrew Holness program under his ministry. He said that he never spent the 3.4 billion. Then I want to know if you get 3.4 billion and don't spend it in your 9 years, if that is not incapable and incompetent.
The social housing program aims to provide well-built housing solutions for poor Jamaicans. It's administered under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Holness says his government intends to build at least 6,000 houses under the program. But Senator Crawford says the program is a failure.
He then said that he needs 6,000 houses for the poor and the indigent. In 9 years, he built less than 300. It means it will take 200 years for him to build 6,000. I want to know a Prime Minister who have a plan for 200 years, if that is not incapable and incompetent.
Senator Damian Crawford. You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
Value Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Value Drug Pharmacy is
15 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is...
It's 29 degrees Celsius here in capital city Kingston, 28 out west in Montego Bay.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. When the shaking stops, look around. If the building is damaged and there's a clear path to safety, leave the building and go to an open space away from damaged areas. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. Telephone 876-960-8359.
Continuing the news. The National Parent-Teacher Association of Jamaica, the NPTAJ, is supporting the call by Government Senator Dr. Sophia Longmore for safeguards to be put in place for teenagers who use social media. The president of the NPTAJ is Stuart Jacobs.
The same way we teach our children behavior pattern at home reinforces again outside at church and school. Therefore, the same should apply how we use, because the children are going to use the devices at home and they are going to use it at school. And sometimes at home it is unsupervised, at school it is also unsupervised. So it should be a partnership between the Ministry of Education, who house our children, training them for 8 hours per day, and us who house our children at home.
During her contribution to the 2024-25 State of the Nation debate last Friday, the senator urged parents and guardians to set guidelines to encourage responsible behavior in the digital space. She cited data showing a significant shift in traditional social behaviors among teenagers in the country. The senator said it reflects trends in countries such as the United States. Mr. Jacobs agrees.
We see the dressing coming out of the social media, the language, the verbiage, the vernacular that is used from time to time, or let me say misused from time to time, and not even from time to time, but more often than ever now. We can see where our children are being influenced by social media. Regrettably, that is.
Stuart Jacobs, president of the National Parent-Teacher Association of Jamaica.
And Education Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon is vowing the government will not allow any child to leave school who is not numerate or literate. She gave the commitment at a media conference held at the headquarters of the University of the West Indies, Mona, on Friday. Mahiri Stewart reports.
While giving her views on the state of education, Minister Morris-Dixon highlighted numerous areas she believes are in need of improvement. She started with early childhood. Minister Morris-Dixon says no child should exit the early childhood phase of their school journey illiterate or innumerate. She says these skills are the bare minimum necessary in order to matriculate into higher education.
The foundation is absolutely key, and we can't forget about early childhood education. You have to start at the beginning, and that's why so much a key pillar, as the PS pointed out, was early childhood education, because that's where it's important. The start is absolutely critical. And as we go through our schools, we have to commit that we're not going to send any child out who is not numerate and literate. That's a minimum thing that as a country we have to say. We cannot be sending out children who do not have those basic skills. If we continue to do it, we have failed them and we're continuing to fail them. And I don't think any of us want to be failing our children.
The minister says the poor mathematics grades revealed in last year's sitting of CXCs shows that Jamaica has failed its youth. Dr. Morris-Dixon says all Jamaicans must play their part in helping improve education across the country.
Education is not just about the Ministry of Education. It is about every single person. And when we saw those results last year that all of Jamaica was very much upset about, the CXC results, we had to ask ourselves, how did we let this happen? It's not just the ministry. The ministry has a big role to play, but it is all of us as Jamaicans that allowed our schools and our children to fail in this way. The data has been there for a long time showing that the outcomes are not what we want. And have we done what we needed to do? We have not done it as a country. Everybody has a role to play in the transformation. And so I am very glad to have heard the PS and the chair speaking to that, because it is an all-of-country effort that we are having right now.
The Education Minister echoed the call of the chairman of the Education Transformation Oversight Committee, Dr. Adrian Stokes, for greater accountability among teachers in education. She says more groups, including the ministry itself and parents, must take responsibility in order for the sector to improve.
Everything that we're doing is going to go to naught if we do not have accountability throughout the system. At the ministry, in our schools, our boards, it cannot all be the ministry didn't. We have regions. We have board chairs. The board chairs set policies in the schools with the principal and the leadership of the school. And so everybody has to play their role. Accountability doesn't rest just in the ministry. It rests all across the system. And our parents too. If you have your children telling you that their teachers aren't showing up, you need to tell us at the ministry. We have to hold the entire system accountability. And hold me accountable too. It's from me right down. All of us have to be held accountable.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Shortly after Donald Trump was sworn in as President of the United States, his administration shut down the U.S. Customs and Border Protection CBP One app for migrants. The app was introduced by the Biden administration. It was used by migrants to notify the United States government of their intention to arrive at a port of entry and created an orderly way for migrants to seek asylum. The Biden-era process allowed nearly 1 million migrants to enter the U.S. at legal border crossings. The CBP reported that November 2024 saw the lowest level in illegal crossings at the U.S. southern border under the Biden administration. Through the end of November, almost 532,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans arrived lawfully and were granted parole under the parole processes. Of that number, almost 111,000 were Cubans, just over 213,000 were Haitians, and close to 121,000 were Venezuelans. A post on the CBP's website read, effective today, January 20, the functionalities of the CBP One that previously allowed undocumented aliens to submit advance information and schedule appointments at 8 southwest border ports of entry is no longer available, and existing appointments have been cancelled.
And President Donald Trump has proclaimed America's decline is over as he vowed to act swiftly through sweeping executive action. He has declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border. Trump announced the proclamation during his swearing-in ceremony on Monday as America's 47th president.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories in Nationwide News at this hour. National Integrity Action calls for Delroy Chuck to be reprimanded over controversial comments he made regarding statutory declaration of spouses and children of parliamentarians.
The majority of municipal corporations have been flagged for accounting failures by the Auditor General.
Damien Crawford says the PNP will not tell Jamaicans its plans until the general elections are called.
There is no way we are saying nothing more until the JLP call the election.
NPTAJ has backed a call for safeguards to be put in place for teenagers using social media.
I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Ricardo Brooks.
That's the news at 5. You can find it, of course, on our app. News next at 6.
Take your business to the next level. Join Jamaica Stock Exchange at its landmark 20th Regional Investment and Capital Markets Conference from the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, January 21st to 23rd, 2025. 3 exciting days of powerful, inspiring, and innovative presentations. Hear from industry experts and entrepreneurs from the Caribbean, USA, Canada, Latin America, and Africa. Come, connect, and network. Reserve your spot at www.jamstockex.com or call 876-967-3271.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Moulins United and Montego Bay United are locked at 0-0 in the first game of a doubleheader in the Ray Nephew Jamaica Premier League down at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex. In the feature game later on at 7:45, the defending champions Cavalier, they'll take on Racing United. A Jamaica 22-man all-schools team is scheduled to leave the island tomorrow evening for Florida to take part in the CASA Youth Classic, which kicks off later in the evening. 7 teams will contest the tournament, including a Tobago Select aggregation. The Jamaica all-schools team will open their campaign on Wednesday against RPS Rush at 8 p.m. before facing Ingenious Elites on Thursday, also at 8 o'clock. The games will be played at the Lauderhill Sports Park and climaxes on Sunday. Amongst the standouts from the schoolboy football season included in the squad are Dylan John and Shorter Gibbs of Jamaica College, Glenmuir's prolific goal scorer Oreen Watson, and Excelsior's Shadeka Wizard. Lester Hibbert of the Costa Cup champions Garvey Maceo and Manning Cup winner Vassal Reynolds of Kingston College are the coaches. Chelsea moved back into the top 4 of the English Premier League this afternoon after beating Wolverhampton Wanderers by 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. Tosinho Adarabiyo opened the scoring for the Blues on minute 24 before Matt Doherty equalised for Wolves in the first half stoppage time. However, Mark Cucurella and Nodi Madueke added further goals to take Chelsea to 40 points and 4th in the standings.
Reece James, and it's deflection for Coffin, and it goes right onto the line, and the ball is forced in, and it has worked. In by Madueke. Cucurella! Well, you can't keep him out of the picture. It is.
Grace Kennedy, through its brands First Global and GK General Insurance, they have committed $9 million to the new ISA schoolboy cricket season. The 2025 season was officially launched today at the offices of the corporate giants. ISA say they're expecting to start the season no later than January 28. It's still not known how many schools will participate in the 2 major tournaments, the Grey Shield and the Grace Headley Cup. Captain Hayley Matthews hit an unbeaten century to guide the West Indies women to a 9-wicket win over Bangladesh in the first one-day international yesterday. Matthews' 104 came off 93 deliveries and she slammed 16 fours. Kiana Joseph made 70 and Shermaine Campbell 40 not out. Earlier, Bangladesh made 198 for 9 in their 50 overs. Murshida Khatun made 40, Sharmin Akhtar 42, and Sobhana Mostari 35. Matthews says this is the start the team wanted.
Obviously coming out here and wanting to have a pretty dominating performance. So yeah, I guess really happy with my own performance, but at the same time, even happier that it could contribute to the team's success. Yeah, 100%. We obviously coming into this series as the higher ranked team, we do want to go out there and I guess stamp our authority. So yeah, it's really good that we could get the One Love win to go up in the series. But yeah, still 2 more crucial games to go that are going to be very important for us.
Matthews and Kiana Joseph, they starred in a 163-run partnership and it's the 3rd highest in the West Indies women's one-day international history.
Yeah, it's obviously a great start to the year, but look, I think kudos to Kiana as well. What a day, I guess, to have her first ODI half-century, and she's been someone that's been coming along so well for the last 6 months or so. So it was really nice to share the crease for her and I guess have another really big partnership together. And yeah, hopefully it's just the start of things this year.
Yeah, that's captain of the West Indies women's team, Hayley Matthews. That's sports. We're going to be back with more at 6:05.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. The time brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:30.
Outperform, outlast, with top performance, Jackama, reliable, full stop, not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electrician. Fancy select tools, free parts and free repairs. Free parts, free repairs. 2 to 3 years. Hilton, available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-6111-4. Delta Supply, we service what we sell.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited and its subsidiary, Environmental Science and Technology Limited. Be prepared to drop, cover, and hold on in the likely event of aftershocks. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited and its subsidiary, Environmental Science and Technology Limited. Telephone 876-929-0023.
The Jamaica diaspora sends over $3 billion back to Jamaica per year, but it is too complicated for them to open investment accounts in Jamaica and invest their money. Blue Maho Capital has unlocked diaspora direct investment, and we are helping to move the Caribbean forward. Learn more about us at www.bluemahocapital.com.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Plan and practice how to drop to the ground, cover your head and neck with your arms, and if a safer place is nearby that you can get to without exposing yourself to flying debris, crawl to it and hold on to maintain cover. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Telephone 876-754-7472.
Delicious meals, poolside cocktails, right on the beach. Disconnect from your daily worries and reconnect with the one you love. There's no paradise like home. Enjoy a romantic all-inclusive escape at Couples Tower Island Couples Sanssouci in Ocherias from $395 USD per night. Take advantage of this offer today by calling Couples Resorts at 876-632-8200 or by visiting couples.com. Conditions apply.
Tune in to Nationwide at 5 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference at the Jamaica Pegasus, Thursday, January 23. Join us and hear top experts discuss key trends, share ideas, and create strategies for growth in the region. Attend the conference and build valuable partnerships, discover new investment opportunities, and see the latest products and services. So come to the Jamaica Pegasus with Nationwide at 5, Thursday, January 23 from 6 to 8 p.m. It's the Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Blue Maho Capital.
Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90 FM is searching for business development executives to help us grow our business and build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to hr@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis, weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Public opinion.
Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are a Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a GLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Multilink, access every time, everywhere I go. Multilink, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multilink. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multilink, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here Nationwide at 5. I'm Cliff Hughes.
Good afternoon, listeners. Good afternoon, Cliff. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
Good afternoon, Ricardo.
How are you?
Good. Well, as one of his final acts as president, Joe Biden pardoned Jamaica's first national hero, Marcus Garvey, who was convicted of mail fraud in the 1920s. Biden has set the presidential record for most individual pardons and commutations issued.
The former president announced on Friday that he was commuting the sentences of almost 2,500 people convicted of nonviolent drug offenses. As you'll hear in this report from Mahiri Stewart, Garvey's pardon has been decades in the making.
Marcus Mosiah Garvey was convicted in a U.S. federal court in 1923 of mail fraud. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment and was incarcerated for almost 3 years. It's widely considered by supporters of Garvey that he was convicted after being targeted by then-Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, and deprived of a fair trial. Garvey's sentence was later commuted by President Calvin Coolidge on the recommendation of the U.S. Attorney General. Upon his release in November 1927, Garvey was deported via New Orleans to Jamaica. This despite millions of signatures petitioning for his full pardon. 9 of the 12 jurors who had convicted him also signed the petition. Over the years, several requests have been made for Garvey to be pardoned by the U.S. government. Former Prime Minister Edward Seaga made a request to former U.S. President Ronald Reagan when he visited Jamaica in 1982. That bid failed. The U.S. congressional campaign to clear Garvey's name was launched in 1987. That coincided with the 100th anniversary of his birth. At the time, New York Democrat Congressman Charles Rangel introduced legislation asking for Garvey to be exonerated. Rangel reintroduced his Garvey exoneration bill every year, telling members of the House in 2004 that the bill's passage was long overdue. At that time, he said, quote, "The injustice done to Garvey reminded me every day of the injustice done to all black people, including myself during that time." End quote. Former Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller also championed the cause. In 2005, she instructed then Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Anthony Hilton, to have dialogue with Jamaicans in the diaspora and Congressman Rangel to fine-tune plans to approach the U.S. government to have Garvey's name cleared. That bid was rejected by the Obama administration in 2011. At that time, White House pardon attorney Ronald Rogers said the limited resources of the Justice Department would be better spent on other requests for presidential clemency. Prime Minister Simpson Miller made another attempt in 2015 during President Obama's historic visit to Jamaica. Simpson Miller told Obama it was, quote, the deep desire of the government and the people of Jamaica, end quote, to have Garvey's record wiped clean. At the time, she said she asked the president to consider the matter and to offer any support within his authority during his tenure in the White House and beyond. Obama left office without doing so. Another effort was made in 2016 by Garvey's son, Dr. Julius Garvey, by way of an online petition. That bid was also unsuccessful. Later that year, the Jamaican government had the local criminal record of Garvey expunged. He was convicted in 1929 for contempt of court when he criticized Jamaica's legal system, which he referred to as oppressive. Since then, other bids have been made by members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Newly appointed chair of the caucus, Democrat Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, has led multiple calls for Garvey's exoneration. The last submission was made to President Biden in December. According to stakeholders, the fight now moves to Garvey's full exoneration. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide at 5.
Thank you, Mahiri. And we're now being joined by the chair of the U.S. Congressional Black Caucus, the Congresswoman representing a district in Brooklyn, New York, Yvette Clarke, and President of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, Stephen Golding. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's great to be with you.
Good evening. Good afternoon. Well, let me begin with you, Congresswoman Clarke. Yes, the reactions where you are in New York to the news that President Biden has pardoned Mosiah Garvey, Marcus Mosiah.
Yes, I have a very large Caribbean American constituency here in Brooklyn, New York, and everyone has really been heartened by the posthumous pardon extended by former President Joe Biden. A number of folks see this as a step towards justice. There are others like myself who see this as a step, but recognize that we have further steps to take in exonerating the Honorable Marcus Garvey with legislation being passed in the House of Representatives in the United States Congress.
Mm-hmm. And Congresswoman, why do you think it took so long? Because as we heard in that report, successive U.S. presidents have been asked to issue this pardon. Why did it take so long?
Well, I can't speak for other presidents, but what I can say is that we were fortunate and really blessed here in the United States to have Joe Biden as our president for the past 4 years. He had a deep commitment to justice, equity, and fairness, to really addressing a number of the wrongs in our criminal justice system that either provided the disproportionate sentencing of individuals from particularly Black and brown communities here in the United States to longer sentences for crimes that were committed writ large, but that others in society had far lesser sentencing for. He dealt with a number of the really egregious criminal justice matters. And us approaching him as a Congressional Black Caucus, along with many of the advocacy groups and organizations here in the United States, I think fell right within sort of his vision for righting those wrongs. And so we really owe a debt of gratitude to President Biden for seeing this as a moment where we could say as the United States of America that this is the beginning of an exoneration for for the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and that he recognizes the contributions that the Honorable Marcus Garvey made here in the United States.
Yeah, and if I could just follow up, Congresswoman, you talked about the next steps towards exoneration. You talked about a bill being introduced in the House of Representatives. Obviously, your Republican colleagues now control both houses of the Congress. You have a Republican president as at noon today. Are you hopeful that that step towards exoneration will move forward under Speaker Johnson?
Well, it has taken us this long to get to this point. We have to be vigilant. We have to persevere in the face of what may seem like an adversity. I am not going to relent now. I know that we have all of the wherewithal, all of the factual basis and information we need to hold a hearing, to do the things that need to be done to bring legislation to the floor of the House for a vote, likewise in the United States Senate. So, will this happen under a Speaker Johnson? It's not likely, but, I've gone through several speakers since my tenure here in the House of Representatives in Congress. And, we don't give up. We continue to do what is right. There's always a time to do what is right. And the goal is to not end our pursuit of justice until we receive it.
Yeah. Hold the line for us, Congresswoman and Stephen Golding. We're up on a break. Stay with us, please.
Clearing personal, non-commercial shipments at the port? Avoid the wait. Request a contactless clearance through your agent today. It's more efficient. It's secure. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
14 minutes to 6.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
The Ministry of Health and Wellness, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, will host the Health and Wellness Career Expo and Employment Fair, January 22 and 23 at 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Attendees from all schools are asked to confirm participation via email to rsvpcareerexpo@moh.gov.jm. Expect interactive booth displays, entertainment, free health screenings, and more. See you at the 2025 Health and Wellness Career Expo and Employment Fair. A career in health, the roadmap to success.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall.
Our Total Tools.
Weed whacker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Welcome back. We're talking about the presidential pardon of departing President Joe Biden to Jamaica's first national hero, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, with the chair of the U.S. Congressional Black Caucus, Yvette Clarke, and president of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, Stephen Golding. Let me bring you in here, Stephen Golding. You told our listeners to the morning program today that this isn't the first presidential pardon granted to Garvey, and President Coolidge did so back in 1927. And you also said Garvey was the one who advocated for that pardon. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Cliff. Remember, and good evening to your listeners. Good evening, Congresswoman Clarke, and congratulations. The term for it is an executive grant of clemency. This is a presidential pardon. And Calvin Coolidge issued one in 1927, which commuted Garvey's sentence, immediate release with one caveat of immediate deportation. So, a pardon, it says we are, it's an unconditional pardon given for a crime committed against the United States government. So Garvey didn't receive parole, but he did receive a pardon in terms of not having to serve out the full 5 years of his sentence. So I'm glad the Congresswoman understands that the road doesn't end here, and that the path to an exoneration is not through the office of the President of the United States, but through the United States Congress. I think the victory in this can only be achieved if we use the awareness created by Biden's move to encourage the Congress and to motivate the Congress towards completing that exoneration. But it's a difficult path, and one that, Congressman Rangel in the 80s attempted to no success.
Yeah. And Congresswoman Clark, the mobilization, yes, will that now taper off or intensify to push towards exoneration?
I believe it will intensify. We know that the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey was falsely convicted of a crime he did not commit. We know that the path forward must include congressional action to completely exonerate the Honorable Marcus Garvey. So I will continue to take all necessary action to clear his name, to deliver justice and closure for his descendants in particular, but all of us who recognize the value of his leadership and, quite frankly, addressing an injustice that took place over 100 years ago, but continues to reverberate throughout our criminal justice system here in the United States. We're focused, and we recognize that it may be a long road ahead, but this is not a sprint. This is a relay. And until we receive that justice, we will continue to introduce legislation, to press for hearings, and to go through the process that will yield ultimately his exoneration.
Stephen Golding, you also seem to have some of the granular evidence to indicate that Garvey was fraudulently prosecuted. If you will, tell us about that.
I'm glad you bring that up, Cliff, because since October of last year, we've been doing screenings of the first movie made on Marcus Garvey, the first narrative film. In fact, I am sitting in a vehicle with the writer and the lead actor who plays the role of Garvey, Samuel Lee Fudge. Now, we have just premiered it in Montego Bay on Saturday. That film, which is entitled Mosiah, and listeners can look at the trailer at mosiahthemovie.com, focuses specifically on Garvey's trial. And a lot of research was done and put into making it. And, part of the evidence that I spoke of earlier today, begins with the 1919 communication from J. Edgar Hoover, which, during the time of the Red Scare, as they called it in the United States, where Edgar Hoover was looking to lock up anybody affiliated with communism, any agitators or radicals. His eyes were set on a young Jamaican named Marcus Garvey, who had become, the voice of the people coming out of Harlem in New York City, particularly the Negro people of the world, as Garvey referred to them. And in that 1919 communication, Hoover says he has not yet committed any crimes, but we are looking for a reason to have him deported from the country, to get rid of him. That's 4 years before Garvey is charged with mail fraud. And at the time that Garvey was charged with mail fraud, it was himself and 4 other directors of the Black Star Line, right? It was 26 charges. At the end of the trial, they could only find one person guilty, being Marcus Garvey, and they could only convict him on one charge. right? 9 members of the jury refused to come back with a verdict, and they were prodded and coerced by the judge to come back with a guilty verdict against Garvey. We know this because when Garvey was incarcerated, they wrote to the United States President Calvin Coolidge at the time, each of them signing a petition for Garvey's sentence to be commuted and for him to be released. So there, law students can go over it. I know it's 100 years, so we can't expect a court to exonerate him, particularly because he has passed. And this is why it takes an action from the United States Congress, from the highest legislative body of the land. And I'm sure Congresswoman Clark is well versed on this. She's familiar with that letter from J. Edgar Hoover. She's familiar with the situation of the case, the juror signing a petition for Garvey to be pardoned. We know this, and I just don't understand why it has taken so long. Marcus Garvey, as of yesterday, I think, becomes the 3rd prominent black man to receive a posthumous pardon. And U.S. presidents were not even issuing posthumous pardons until Bill Clinton did so in 1999. The first one was issued to Lieutenant Henry Flipper, the first black man to graduate from West Point, the first black man to be appointed an officer in the U.S. Army when he was stationed with the Buffalo Soldier. And he was framed to make it seem as if he stole from the U.S. commissary and was given a dishonorable discharge. It took his family decades to try and clear his name. And even in the issuing of the pardon that Clinton says, it still says, we are pardoning you for crimes committed against the United States. And this is this real sticking point why people must realize that a pardon is not what we are seeking. It has to be an exoneration which admits to Garvey's innocence. It admits to the fact that Garvey was targeted and framed by the government. And in the case of any exoneration, such as the Central Park 5 a few years ago, in the case of any exoneration, the government will then have to be prepared to have discussions about reparations, or whether that includes compensation, and for whom or for what.
Congresswoman, before we run out of time, I just want to switch gears really quickly with you, because Donald Trump is now the 47th president of the United States. He has vowed that he will launch immigration crackdowns in what he calls sanctuary cities, New York, of course, being one of them. You represent a district with a large population of Caribbean American people. What's the mood there, and how are they preparing for these suspected raids?
Well, even prior to today's inauguration, our communities have been a flurry with activity. People are extremely concerned because they are in between status here in the United States. And though this administration has in the past indicated that they were going to be focused primarily on violent criminals, we know from previous experience in his prior tenure as president that that is not always so, that we cannot take him at his word. So a lot of the work that we have to do in our communities is really about people knowing their rights. We are encouraging certainly those who are in between status to stay within the boundaries of the law. And we're going to do everything we can to protect as many people as we can. But it is a time of a lot of trepidation here in the United States, not only in my constituency, but across the nation, for those who are undocumented, whose status is not hardened or confirmed yet within the United States citizenship and immigration services. So we've got a lot of work to do. Our office has always served as a place for those within our constituency or residing within the boundaries of our constituency that are seeking support and or assistance with their status to come and to receive accurate information. The one thing that we are encouraging is for folks who are in between status, who lack legal standing in the United States, to not be fooled by individuals out there that would use their plight to exploit them financially. So I encourage anyone who is listening to this program, who's watching this program, who may have family members abroad who are in between status, to make sure that they check in with their Congress member in particular before they pay any fees to individuals out there who claim that they can adjust their status within the United States of America. This is a very troubling time in our nation. We have a very anti-immigrant administration that has come in to the White House. We also don't have a body, whether it's the Congress or the Supreme Court, that is welcoming to immigrants at this time. While we're in the minority, my party, which is the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives, the Republican Party, which espouses many of the same values that you hear articulated by President Trump, control sort of the levers of power in our legislative body as well as in our courts. So this is indeed a very challenging time for immigrants in the United States, and I anticipate it becoming even more difficult as the days go by.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Clark and the President of the UNIA, Stephen Goulding. That's all the time we have this afternoon. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
After the break, the headlines at 6.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
6:01.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Nora Gay Banton. Executive Director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, Professor Trevor Monroe, is calling for Justice Minister Delroy Chuck to be reprimanded if he refuses to withdraw his controversial comment that is seemingly in breach of the Integrity Commission Act. Professor Monroe made the call on the Jamaicans for Justice JFJ-produced show Let's Talk Justice on Nationwide 90 FM on Monday. The Justice Minister advised his colleague parliamentarians in the lower house last week against disclosing the salaries of their spouses or children to the Integrity Commission. The comment is a breach of the existing Integrity Commission Act. Since then, the opposition has called for his resignation, but Minister Delroy Chuck has rejected that call. Speaking with Nationwide News over the weekend, he apologized for his phrasing of the comment, claiming it was misinterpreted.
My statement was totally misinterpreted. It was not clear as it should have been, and for that I apologize. What my stated intention was related to the relevant members who indicated that their spouses had refused to provide the information, documentation, and verification of their salary, assets, and liabilities. So it was not a statement to say that members should flout the law. My presentation was directed to those declarants whose spouses were not prepared to indicate their salary, assets, and liabilities, and, to verify them when the IC asked for further information.
But according to Professor Trevor Monroe, that explanation is not enough. He's calling for the Justice Minister to be reprimanded if he refuses to withdraw the comment.
Position that was espoused and stated by Minister Chuck needs to be disavowed by him, if not by him, by the government, and that the minister must be reprimanded if he declines to withdraw and to apologize.
Professor Monroe says given that corruption is being treated as an active threat to democracy, now is the time to comply with these provisions. Opposition leader Mark Golding has added his voice to the call for Justice Minister Delroy Chuck to resign. The PNP called for Chuck's resignation after he appeared to advise parliamentarians not to comply with the sections of the law which require their spouses to declare their salaries. Minister Chuck has since said his comments were taken out of context, but Golding says he must go.
We need a justice minister who encourages compliance with the rule of law and doesn't tell parliamentarians to violate the Integrity Commission Act. If I was Minister of Justice and I was saying the things that the current Minister of Justice was saying, I would have to take with myself. He must go.
Mr. Golding has described the state of governance under the JLP as a disgrace. He says more and more Jamaicans are calling for him to take the reins as Prime Minister.
How can he be giving incorrect, negligent advice to his own colleagues about what their obligations are under the law that is under his own portfolio? It is a disgrace what is happening in this country. I was at Rebel Salute last night, and I want to tell you, the amount of people there who see me and say to me, say, you know, say, me never vote yet, but in the next section, me have to vote for you because we need somebody like you to take us forward.
Opposition leader Mark Golding. He was speaking at a presentation rally for Danishka Williams as the party's caretaker in Southwest St. Anne. PNP caretaker for Northwest St. Catherine, Senator Damian Crawford, has vowed that his party will not reveal the policy plans it has for the country until Prime Minister Andrew Holness calls the general election. According to the senator, Labourites are known for stealing ideas.
Tonight I won't be giving no solutions. Where is the PNP's solution? We know said nobody not thief like Labourite when time come for election.
Several political analysts have called on the PNP to outline the policy platform it would pursue should it be successful in the election due later this year. The analysts say the PNP has not outlined a clear list of policies to improve the lives of Jamaicans. But Senator Crawford says the party will not reveal any plans before the date of the election is known. Speaking at a PNP candidate presentation in Southwest St. Anne on Sunday, he took particular aim at the Prime Minister.
I go to conference and said that students being absent is a problem. In 1 month, Holness go to his conference and said truancy is a problem. If just the one use my words and find that next word and then said this is a problem. So if him thief my word, then him now go thief my plan. There is no way. We are saying nothing more until the JLP call the election. Then we will tell the people what our plans are.
Senator Damian Crawford, PNP caretaker for Northwest St. Catherine. Meanwhile, Senator Crawford has come to the defense of Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis after Prime Minister Andrew Holness blasted her recent report dealing with his signature social housing program. Mrs. Monroe Ellis flagged the program, arguing it was duplicating existing efforts and was in need of reform. Prime Minister Holness dismissed the report and appeared to accuse the Auditor General of ignorance and incompetence. But Senator Crawford says the Prime Minister is the one who has been incompetent.
Now the Auditor General spoke the truth that 3.4 billion with a B, not with a M, was granted to the housing project for Andrew Holness program under his ministry. He said that he never spent the 3.4 billion. Then I want to know if you get 3.4 billion and don't spend it in your 9 years, if that is not incapable and incompetent.
The social housing program aims to provide well-built housing for the poorest Jamaicans. It is administered under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Sports is next.
Since 1995, we've been your go-to source for everything related to billiards, amusement machines, and electronics. With locations at 1A Lindsay Terrace, Kingston 10, and the Village Plaza, Big Bridge, Savannah Lamar, we offer top-quality pool table parts and accessories, cutting-edge gaming machines, and more. We also specialize in assembly, sales, and service of amusement machines. We provide unmatched customer service, expert solutions, and products tailored to your needs. Who are we? We are Eclipse Enterprise. Telephone 876-960-3891.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Retrofit and reinforce your house. If you're in a high-risk area, take steps to reinforce your house. Bolt your house to the foundation and reinforce support beams as needed. Secure furniture such as bookshelves and cabinets to the walls. This will decrease the risk of furniture moving or falling and injuring someone. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Telephone 876-754-7472.
The Jamaica diaspora sends over $3 billion back to Jamaica per year, but it is too complicated for them to open investment accounts in Jamaica and invest their money. Blue Maho Capital has unlocked diaspora direct investment, and we are helping to move the Caribbean forward. Learn more about us at www.bluemahocapital.com.
Do you remember this?
We're having an earthquake. Oh, God.
Don't worry, we never forget it. But in all seriousness, earthquakes are deemed the most dangerous natural disaster. We can never predict when one will hit our lovely Jamaica. But we can raise awareness and help you to prepare for one with our radio segment known as Seismic Dialogue. Tune in to the Seismic Dialogue every Monday at 7 p.m. during Nationwide at 5. We'll have discussions, listener interactions, and more. That's the Seismic Dialogue. Mondays at 7 p.m. during Nationwide at 5. Preparedness is key. Secure what matters, have a plan, and remain calm when the ground shakes. Brought to you by Digital Commodities, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, and Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. At sports time, Lions and Montego Bay United, they were 0-0 in their Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League game at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex. The feature game of the doubleheader will come up at 7:45 this evening, and it will feature the defending champions Cavalier against Racing United. A Jamaica 22-man all-schools team is scheduled to leave the island tomorrow evening for Florida for the Casa Youth Classic, which kicks off later in the evening. 7 teams will contest the tournament, including a Tobago Select aggregation. The Jamaica All-Schools will open their campaign on Wednesday against RPS Rush at 8 p.m. before facing Ingenious Elite on Thursday, also at 8. The game will be played at the Lauderhill Sports Park, and climaxes on Sunday. That's the games in the tournament. Among the standouts from the schoolboy football season included in the squad are Dylan John and Shordo Gibbs of Jamaica College, Glenmuir's prolific scorer Orain Watson, and Excelsior's Shadiko Wizard. Lester Hibbert of the Costa Cup champions Gavin Maceo and Manning Cup winner Vassal Reynolds of Kingston College are the coaches. Chelsea, they move back into the English Premier League top 4 this afternoon after beating Wolverhampton Wanderers by 3-1 at Stamford Bridge in London. Tosin Adabario opened the scoring for the Blues on 24 minutes before Matt Doherty equalised for Wolves in first half at stoppage time. However, Mark Cucurella and Noni Madueke added further goals to take Chelsea to 40 points and 4th in the standings.
Reece James, and it's deflection for Tosin, and it goes right onto the line, and the ball is forced in, and it has worked. In by Madueke. Cucurella! Well, you can't keep him out of the picture. It is.
Grace Kennedy, through its brands First Global and GK General Insurance, have committed $9 million to the new Issa Schoolboy cricket season. The 2025 season was officially launched today at the offices of the corporate giants. Issa say they are expecting to start the season no later than January 28. It's understood that 28 teams have already confirmed for the Grace Headley Cup and 15 for the Grace Shield. That's to be confirmed, but that's based on what we're hearing. Those numbers which have been already registered for the tournaments, and as I mentioned, ISA is expecting to get the season underway well before January 28. Captain Hayley Matthews hit an unbeaten century to guide the West Indies women to a 9-wicket win over Bangladesh in the first one-day international on Sunday. Matthews' 104 came off 93 balls and she hit 16 fours. Kiana Joseph made 70 and Shemaine Campbell 40 not out. Bangladesh made 198 for 9 in their 50 overs. Murshida Khatun made 40, Sharmin Akhtar 42, and Sabana Mostre 35. Matthews says this is the start the team always wanted.
Obviously coming out here and wanting to have a pretty dominating performance, so yeah, I guess really happy with my own performance, but at the same time, even happier that it could contribute to the team's success. Yeah, 100%. We obviously coming into this series as the higher ranked team, we do want to go out there and I guess stamp our authority. So yeah, it's really good that we can get the One Love win to go up in the series. But yeah, still 2 more crucial games to go that are going to be very important for us.
Matthews and Joseph put on 163 runs, and it's the 3rd highest in West Indies women's history.
Yeah, it's obviously a great start to the year, but look, I think kudos to Kiana as well. What a day, I guess, to have her first ODI half-century, and she's been someone that's been coming along so well for the last 6 months or so. So it was really nice to share the crease with her and I guess have another really big partnership together. And yeah, hopefully it's just the start of things this year.
That's West Indies women's cricket team captain Hayley Matthews. Coach of Jamaica's national senior netball team, Sasha Gay Henry, says she's pleased with the Sunshine Girls' start to the 3-match series against South Africa. The Sunshine Girls opened the tournament with a 55-47, the series rather. Henry says the girls were impressive in victory.
We're excited about the win. One thing we wanted to do was to build on our performance, what we did in against England, and I think we have to go back to the tape and see how well that I think we still had some bit of flaws in our game. And we showed resilience in terms of coming back in some point when we missed 2 or 3 balls down. So we're quite grateful. It's a new squad. We're trying the rotations a lot for this game, and I think it worked well for us tonight. So we only want to build on that for the next game.
Sunshine Girls coach Sasha Gay Henry. Her South African counterpart Jenny Van Dyke says despite the defeat, they're focusing on the positives that they took from the first game.
Previous 2 encounters we had against Jamaica, we lost by 18 points. Today we only lost by 8, so 15-point improvement. Besides our team is quite right. What a great start for us. You know, it's important for us to be able to keep that intensity going. They left their level and we didn't quite match it at all times. And we went into all time with a 5-point deficit, and then even in the third quarter right now we did quite good even in the fourth. So that second quarter is really confident.
Right, that's Jenny Van Dyke, coach of South Africa. Racehorse trainer Fitznahum Williams, it says he's excited after Benson, ridden by Richie Shakes, won the George Osang Trophy at Caymanas Park at the weekend. This was Benson's 5th career victory.
Very, very well. He liked to sprint, and I just do as best as freshen him for run. Improve a lot, because he started as a 4-year-old, and to at this time him just start running for 6 months and reach the stage. It's very good. It suits me.
Racehorse trainer Fitznahum Williams. And just to remind you of the score in the game down at Arnett Gardens between Malines and Montego Bay United, it's goalless, and it's of course the opening game of a doubleheader in the Jamaica Premier League. The big game coming up later on tonight will feature Cavalier, the defending champions, and they'll be taking on one of the debutants, Racing United, in what should also be a cracking game as well. That's sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:18.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore, for all your prescription needs, gifts, personal care, household and stationery items. The temperature by Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore is
28 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay.
Plug into the sun with Peak Energy Solutions. We are your affordable provider for everything solar. Grid tie or off-grid solar P systems, solar air conditioners, panels, lithium batteries, solar supplies, and installation. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hills, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar. Start your fitness journey today and make 2025 your healthiest yet with Express Fitness. State-of-the-art equipment, expert trainers, and encouraging community are here to support you every step of the way. Join now and take the first step towards a stronger, happier you. Express Fitness, starting at only $9,500 per month with 11 locations island-wide. Your gym for all your needs. Visit www.expressfitnessja.com to sign up today.
Tune in to Nationwide at 5 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference at the Jamaica Pegasus, Thursday, January 23. Join us and hear top experts discuss key trends, share ideas, and create strategies for growth in the region. Attend the conference and build valuable partnerships, discover new investment opportunities, and see the latest products and services. So come to the Jamaica Pegasus with Nationwide at 5, Thursday, January 23 from 6 to 8 p.m. It's the Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Bloomahoe Capital.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening and welcome to Public Opinion right here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Special good evening to our YouTubers. We invite you to also weigh in the live comment section on today's Public Opinion. All right, so big news this weekend, right? Outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden, by the time you're hearing this, he would have been former U.S. President Joe Biden. He has issued a posthumous pardon to Jamaica national hero Marcus Garvey. The pardon comes more than a century after Garvey was convicted for mail fraud in the United States, and this conviction has been long criticized as being politically and racially motivated. Supporters of Marcus Garvey say the conviction was meant to silence an increasingly popular black leader who tried to inspire racial pride, and several prominent members of the U.S. Congressional Black Caucus, including our guest a while ago, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, had urged Biden to right what was widely viewed as a historical wrong. Now, many people in Jamaica were very happy to hear this news, including the Culture Minister, Olivia Grange, who said that it was she was one of the people that had called for the pardon. Now, following the news, the chairman of the JLP, Robert Montague, described it as a step in the right direction.
The Jamaica Labour Party is quite pleased at this step on the journey to getting His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey's name fully cleared. We are steadfast in our objective that not only a pardon should be granted, but also full exoneration because he was an innocent man. We are quite happy that President Biden has made this step. It will encourage us to go for the next step.
And opposition leader Mark Golding, the PNP president, described the move as a triumphant acknowledgement of a legacy restored.
I acknowledge with pleasure President Biden's use of his clemency power in relation to Jamaican national hero and Pan-Africanist, the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We are claiming this as a complete exoneration of our national hero, who suffered a grave injustice when he was wrongfully prosecuted in the U.S. for mail fraud and sentenced in 1923 to 5 years in prison. Marcus was imprisoned from 1925 to 1927, when U.S. President Calvin Coolidge commuted the sentence and had him deported.
Right, so in today's Public Opinion, we are asking you, the public, what's your reaction to Joe Biden's pardon of Marcus Garvey? Now let's take a look. Clothilda 57 is our first comment, and they say, that's the first step. The PM will be continuing their efforts to have Marcus fully exonerated. G Money 2914 says it was overdue, but I'm happy. No. Can we have... Oh, someone's asking if we can have one of Marcus's family members to come on and tell us how they feel. Interesting suggestion. Who knows, man? We'll see. Will Ryan Wilson on Instagram says, I welcome it. It's right. A very right step in the direction of clearing Marcus Garvey's name once and for all. That's what we have over on Instagram. But now we're going to go over to Twitter to see what the folks over on Facebook. I'm on Facebook now. We're going to see what folks over on Facebook have to say about the pardoning of Marcus Garvey. And we start with Audley Phillip. Now, whilst the pardon is a good first step, much more is expected. Marcus Garvey's conviction for mail fraud was a cook-up attempt to silence him at a time when blacks were prohibited from talking. He died with the fake blemish on his record. The exoneration of Garvey is not merely a response to historical injustice, it's a moral imperative that seeks to address a very deliberate targeting of a visionary leader whose work redefined the fight for black empowerment. We cannot rest until he's fully exonerated. Christopher Isaacs says he's deserving of total exoneration. Garvey's dreams and aspirations, instead of being realized, are now being threatened. Philip Jackson says it's the first step of 1,000 miles and is one of the most significant moves towards the completion of the journey. Very significant indeed. It's just the beginning of the journey ahead. Anthony Shakes says, good first step. Let's see which other president will finish it. Alrighty. What else do we have here? Sean Major Campbell says, this is how the system works. It was good to see America's first black president granting the so-called pardon. Anyways, back to Jamaica. Who will pardon the empty promises over the years, re-teaching Garvey's teachings in our schools? That's another question to ask in the future. And lastly, let's go over to X, formerly known as Twitter, to see what folks over there have to say about Garvey's exoneration. God's official general says, good move, although late. Why not earlier within his term? Seeking to secure Caribbean support for his party's next campaign. Similar timeline, the other one did, coming here promoting certain agenda. They do nothing without some strings attached or ulterior motives. Bowinkle says, long time coming, but came it did. Thank you, President number 46. Afghanistan Rasta says it's a good thing. And Truth and Right says, great step in the direction of total exoneration, which is just a process away thanks to Dr. Garvey for dedicating his literal life in having his father's name cleared, which is inevitable from this point forward. Nice. So those are all the social media reactions. Can we squeeze in a couple YouTube ones? Let's see what we have here. Is there anything here I can read? Are the YouTubers taking part? Are the YouTubers taking part in today's public opinion? I want to see what y'all opinion is on Joe Biden pardoning Marcus Garvey. And we had a nice little timeline of events in Nationwide at 5 earlier. Let's see what everyone here has to say. I'm not seeing anything here. Oh, here we go. Concerned Dunce. What a name. Marcus Garvey is our hero, with or without a pardon. A pardon from the United States. Love that. All right. Lovely Dominoes says, Garvey teachings in our school. That's a second person I'm seeing calling for Marcus Garvey's teachings. They want to see Garveyism in the schools, Josephine said. If Garvey could hear this, I would feel much better, but nevertheless, long overdue. All right, what else do we have here? Gloria says, Mr. Siaga demonstrated a profound honor on Marcus Garvey when he was made national hero. Good job, great job, President Joe Biden. Cheerful Bird says it's a little too late for Garvey, or a little too late in terms of the pardoning, is what Cheerful Birds is trying to say. Jacqueline Thomas says, after he's leaving? Well, I guess the notion I'm getting so far is better late than never. A lot of people are saying, yeah, it might be too late, but it's only the first step. But anyways, folks, that's public opinion for today. Thank you as always for participating. But now it's time for the business report.
Public opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, industrial automation and control solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:28.
Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today.
The temperature by IQ Optical is...
It is 28 degrees Celsius in both Kingston and Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Mahiri Stewart. U.S. President Donald Trump did not immediately impose tariffs on Monday, but said in his inaugural address the U.S. would collect massive amounts of income from foreign trade duties as his administration works to rebuild American industry. A Trump administration official said the new president would issue a broad trade memo that stops short of immediate tariffs, but directs federal agencies to evaluate U.S. trade relationships with China, Canada, and Mexico. After weeks of global speculation over which duties Trump would impose on his first day in office, news that Trump would take more time on tariffs drove a relief rally in global stocks, while other major currencies rallied against the dollar. Trump mentioned no specific tariff plan in his inaugural address, but repeated his intention to create the External Revenue Service, a new agency to collect massive amounts of tariffs, duties, and other revenues from foreign sources. During his election campaign, Trump vowed to impose steep tariffs on 10% to 20% on global imports into the U.S. and 60% on goods from China to help reduce a trade deficit that now tops $1 trillion annually. He said after his November election, that he would sign all necessary documents upon taking office to impose an immediate 25% import surcharge on imports from Canada and Mexico if they failed to clamp down on the flow of illicit drugs and migrants entering the U.S. illegally. A union representing thousands of Costco employees vowed to authorize a strike, paving the way for a work stoppage if the labor group and retailer do not reach an agreement. Costco Teamsters, the union with 18,000 employees for the retailer nationwide, said 85% of members voted to approve the action. The current contract between the Teamsters and the wholesaler is set to expire on January 31st. Costco's greedy executives have less than 2 weeks to do the right thing. Those are the words of Sean O'Brien, General President of Teamsters, in a statement earlier. He said if they refuse, they'll have no one to blame but themselves when our members go on strike. Now, a strike could hamper day-to-day operations at the well-known retailer. It could also impact public sentiment around Costco, which has become known for its positive treatment of workers and, more recently, as a defender of diversity and inclusion initiatives. And finally, in the currency markets, it cost 156 Jamaican dollars and 68 cents to buy $1. It cost 186 Jamaican dollars and 14 cents to buy £1 British pound, and it cost 107 Jamaican dollars and 48 cents to buy $1 Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Stay tuned.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Registration is now open for Sagicor Sigma Run 2025. Register now and get ready to run, walk and wheel for a cause. Our beneficiaries are Sir John Golding Rehabilitation Center, Father Holang and Friends Foundation, and the Kingston Public Hospital. Be a part of Sagicor Sigma Run 2025. Make sure you're there on February 16 for the Caribbean's biggest road race. Visit SagicorSigmaRun.com and register now. Sponsored by Walden, Pan Jam, National Baking Company, Reggae Marathon, Catherine's Peak, Millet Media and Whistling Frog.
New World Home Improvement and Detail Cleaning offers high-quality detail cleaning and home improvement services. They cater to residential and commercial properties. They clean from the ceiling to the floor. They clean sofas, mattresses, carpets, and chairs. They deep clean and restore all floors. They repair and restore roofing. They do tiling, general paintings, drywall works, and other carpentry services to include property renovation. Call them 876-384-9313. Follow them at New World Detail Cleaning and Home Improvement.
Jamaica, let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one republic. We on the road to republic. Well then, let's propel we nation moving forward in a new direction. True independence, that's the projection. No more dependency, it's the best plan. Yes, we know what's best for us, cause we want we country prosperous. So make we just pull together as the general public while on the road to republic. Jamaica, let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one republic. We on the road to republic.
A message from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
We on the road to republic.
Enough power tool, big to small. Chakama figure dig the wall.
Our total tools.
Beat waka figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total tools. We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When you say home improvement, landscape construction, or Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slipe Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Tune in to Outside with Pepita from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we broadcast live from Megamart, 29 Waterloo Road on Saturday, January 25.
Outside with Pepita and me, the Stinger Honeybee. In a Megamart equals
Mega Vibes. Come on down to Megamart Waterloo for all the New Year excitement. Don't miss the Mega Fiesta,
the Mega Specials,
and the Mega Promotion.
Outside with Pepita is doing it mega with Megamart. So join Outside with Pepita
alongside Honeybee,
Saturday, January 25
from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Catch us at Megamart, 29 Waterloo Road, Kingston.
Or tune in to Nationwide 90 FM,
the new revolution in media.
This broadcast is brought to you by Megamart.
Tune in to Nationwide at 5 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference at the Jamaica Pegasus, Thursday, January 23. Join us and hear top experts discuss key trends, share ideas, and create strategies for growth in the region. Attend the conference and build valuable partnerships, discover new investment opportunities, and see the latest products and services. So come to the Jamaica Pegasus with Nationwide at 5, Thursday, January 23 from 6 to 8 p.m. It's the Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Bloomahoe Capital.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Do you remember this?
We're having an earthquake. Oh, God.
Don't worry, we never forget it. But in all seriousness, earthquakes are deemed the most dangerous natural disaster. We can never predict when one will hit our lovely Jamaica. But we can raise awareness and help you to prepare for one with our radio segment known as Seismic Dialogue. Tune in to the Seismic Dialogue every Monday at 7 p.m. during Nationwide at 5. We'll have discussions, listener interactions, and more. That's the Seismic Dialogue. Mondays at 7 p.m. during Nationwide at 5. Preparedness is key. Secure what matters, have a plan, and remain calm when the ground shakes. Brought to you by Digital Commodities, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, and Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the Nation's Business. And this evening in the Nation's Business, we're bringing you Nationwide's year in review for 2024. Or Deputy Executive Producer George Davis sat with the PNP's caretaker for East Central St. Catherine, Raymond Price, and member of the JLP's Communication Task Force, Marlon Morgan. And they looked at the top 15 stories of 2024. What are your top 15? You probably should take out a pen and paper and make jottings as you remember them. It was a big year for news, politics, the courts, sports, you name it. It was a big year. So here is Nationwide's 2024 year in review.
It's the year in review 2024, looking back at the big stories that made the cut in the year. It's a special production, different from the year in reviews that you usually see, not the boring, straight-jacketed production. It's snazzy, it's substantial. We're at a fantastic place, it's a happening place every day of the week. AC Marriott, come with me inside. Welcome to Nationwide's review of the news year that was 2024. We're going to make it snappy. There are many stories that will not make this cut. Perhaps you won't agree with none of the 15 stories that have made the cut this year. But we are giving you what we believe based on our coverage and how the news has been consumed by you, what we think are 15 of the biggest stories from the news year 2024. Of course, I'm not alone. There are two gentlemen to assist me with their different perspectives on the news items, and maybe there is something that they believe should have been on this list that is not, that they'll opine about. I'm sure Raymond Price, the PNP caretaker for East Central St. Catherine, will have a lot to say. Never a man short of an opinion, and also tall of opinion is the man beside him to his left, Marlon Morgan. He is a senior member of the JLP's Communications Task Force. Gentlemen, welcome to Nationwide as we review the news year that was 2024.
Morning, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year, Raymond. And I haven't seen you for a minute, man. We need to see each other more often. All right, let's get right into it, gentlemen. Olympics at the foot of the table, number 15. A six-medal performance from a powerhouse like Jamaica at an Olympic Games, Marlon, is a poor return.
There are many aspects of national life that Jamaica may be considered as not having gotten right, but our athletic prowess is one of those areas in which we have distinguished ourselves. And so you can understand, based on the sheer national appetite, the Jamaican people have considerable expectations going into any games, whether it is the Olympics or the World Championships each year. And we would have wanted to have amassed more in terms of the medal tally this time around, but we know that we were beset by some injuries. And so, I mean, we continue to support our athletes. This year is a World Championship year, so we want them to, get on with it. I want Kishain to learn from the error of last year and run through and bust the tape.
Yes. Number 14, Roger Stoner. We got an Olympic champion in an area that we have never had an Olympic champion before, with an Olympic record to boot in the shot put.
No, absolutely, and that's a good thing about track and field. I remember the year Dion Hemmings won gold, and no one had expected it. It came as a big national surprise and a gift. The same happened the first time Asafa Pearl broke the world record and went sub 10. So each Olympics or Olympiad brings to the fore talent that we suspected was there, but have now been confirmed. We were all disappointed. I did express my own disappointment, but more than my own disappointment is my understanding that the talent pool for coaches as well continues to be strong. So I look forward to 2028 and the steps in between.
Yeah, and we're live. I did say shot put. That was Ginger Campbell in the shot put with a bronze medal. Roger Stoner was the discus. And gentlemen, this is a nationwide production, but I can't proceed without doffing my cap, if I had one, to the observer they had a brilliant headline to celebrate Stoner's Olympic gold medal in Olympic record. Big Stoner Fling. Yeah. It was brilliant. The headline of the year as far as I'm concerned. Big Stoner Fling. Number 13, gentlemen. Raymond, this gentleman's name was in the news a lot in 2024. Everton, Beachy Stout, McDonald, Portland royalty where business is concerned. We've all heard of him over the years. But he found himself in more than a spot of bother, and he was ultimately convicted, life imprisonment for the grisly murder of his wife.
Right. No, the level of domestic violence continues to be one of those hidden secrets that's paraded out in the open. So every time something like this happens, it gives us an opportunity of national learning. I think one of the big winners in 2024 was the justice system on a whole. And, you know, while there are still sensitivities, you see one family celebrate that justice has been done. You still can't recover a life. But it did shock a lot of people, the Portlanders in particular, because this is somebody who was known to be affable, somebody who was quite evident and obvious on the social scene, part of the fabric of Portland. But it just goes to show that no matter how high or low you sit, when you run afoul of the law, the long reach of the law will eventually snatch you.
And Marlon Beachy, a lot of money, a lot of influence, not just in power but outside, but also a lot of wickedness.
The criminal justice system has been acquitting itself well, particularly the constabulary force, because one of the elements in that Beachy Stout trial was the whole notion of the state witness, persons who were acting in collusion with Beachy Stout, as would have been alleged prior to his conviction. They were able to collaborate with the prosecutorial outfit, and it resulted in a successful prosecution of the matter. And so, thumbs up to the JCF, and we have seen it in other developments before the courts as well.
Number 12, gentlemen. A little thing called the local government elections, February 26, 24. Now, the PNP left that night saying they won. In context, and in my view, they did, because based on where they were in 2012, when they had fair few councillors relative to the JLP, which had 8, the PNP had 4, one was tied, and the PNP came out with 7 in hand, including Portmore. The buoyancy from the performances, you can see why a party would say they won. And Raymond, I'm sure you would say it was not a false position that many comrades adopted coming out of local government election.
Math always wins. My granny teach me marble. I remember one day quickly, I'm leaving with 50 marbles. She said, how much marble I carry? I said, the whole of them. She take back 30 and say, you're leaving with 20. When I came back home, I had 17. And she said, but you can't play, you lose. And I said, no, I win, because I did actually at one point only have 6. So I win back 11. She said, pick me, boy. You leave with 20, you come with 17, you lose. The morning of the local government elections, the Jamaica Labour Party had X, and the evening they had X minus Y. I'll tell you what the factor of Y means. X minus Marky G and the PNP, take it from them. Full stop. Comma, comma, dash, dash.
X marks the spot, Marlon, and the PNP got more X's on local government election than your side.
More divisions in terms of the divisional hall. The PNP has this habit of making the rules up as they go along. We all know how a local government outturn is defined and determined. The Jamaican state is broken down into 13 municipal corporations because the Kingston and St. Andrew municipal space is consolidated and it is one. At the end of the local government elections in February of 2024, the JLP had a hall of 7 municipal corporations, which it controls, and compared to the PNP's 5. And so the PNP also has the Portmore City Municipality, which essentially gives it, 6 mayors relative to the JLP's 7. But you can't make the rules up as you go along, and we have a competent authority in relation to election outturn in Jamaica, and that is the Electoral Commissioner.
Marlon, with all that said, you would agree the PNP did much better than your side.
Because, as Raymond said, the math is the math. And the truth is, arithmetically, we have ended up with less parish council divisions. But that's not how an election win at the local government level is defined.
The man is sipping his tea. Well, give me the chairman's privilege of casting, and then you can agree or disagree. The PNP did much better on local government election day than your team did.
There's no doubt that elections come down to getting out one's vote, and the consensus amongst Laborites is that we would have underperformed in terms of the local government elections last year. But what is important is always learning from one's experiences and demonstrating that learning. And in the elections to come, the big one in 2025, you will see what we shall.
I hear you, Raymond.
So that's the big one in March?
Let's crack on, gentlemen. Yeah. Another one to not smile about, Raymond. Another gentleman who was popular, not beachy stout popular, but prominent nonetheless, especially in the social media spaces, Omar Collymore, life imprisonment for orchestrating the murder of his wife.
No, as I said, the justice system, and Marlon specified even further, the criminal justice system, any case that went before the courts that was properly prosecuted and would have seen a vigorous defense in each case, upon conclusion, the public has to agree that we are seeing the results of a robust, independent justice system, which, if you ask me, is the precondition for a robust democracy. So, and again, domestic violence. Yeah. The issue of how we resolve conflicts and disputes at an interpersonal level continues to be evasive in terms of the solution for it. And I think at the core of it, it was another case of not knowing how to resolve conflicts.
And Marlon, quickly, you said it earlier, but the father of Simone Collymore, the woman murdered in this matter, one of his first comments outside the Supreme Court was to praise the justice system.
Absolutely, because that's a key thing. There are persons who, there are stakeholders, there's a family that will never be able to reconcile in terms of getting their loved one who has died back. It was at the start of one of the new years. It may have either been 2019 or 2020. And we were in the early days in January when we heard this particular news bulletin. And it was just heart-rending. Yeah. And we're happy that it resulted in a successful prosecution.
Another heart-rending one, Raymond, and the most senior policeman in charge of investigating crime told the nation that he broke down Coyote Satchel and her murder of 8-year-old Daniel Rowe.
Yeah, that one still gives chills.
Senseless, in one word, senseless. To think that, Miss Satchel felt that she had a grouse to settle with the person who she alleges infected her with HIV, to take it out on an innocent child, that is just incomprehensible. It's just repugnant beyond measure. Yeah. And it's a senseless loss. That little girl could have gone on to become anything, even Prime Minister of Jamaica, following in the traditions of Mrs. Simpson Miller.
Yeah, number 9 on my list, Raymond Price. A gentleman who commands a lot of respect, but courted a lot of controversy in 2024. Retired Justice Seymour Panton, putting on a show in the Parliament when he went there with members of the Integrity Commission.
Unless you walk a mile in my moccasins, don't judge my journey. I grew up with that American or Native American proverb on a plaque on my wall. I've paraphrased it. And so much was said directly, indirectly, and as part of the obiter dicta about the Integrity Commission and the different layers that were placed there to guard against public theft and to ensure integrity and accountability. I think that what happened when the IC appeared before Parliament, they did both. And what you saw was truth. Nobody said he said anything that was not factual. How he said it might not be the way you would have said it, but now that it has been said, more Jamaicans are alert to the important role the Integrity Commission must be allowed to play without interference or threat of removing through legislation the authority that this nation gifted them.
Hear you on that. Raymond speaks about, hold on, Merlin. Raymond speaks about obiter dicta from the retired. Hold on, right. So the obiter dictum that caused the problems was that comment about, see, Mr. Chairman, I even brought my own water. That comment from retired Justice Panton.
I think by any measure, that exchange in the Parliament last year involving the chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Panton, was one of the lower points in calendar year 2024. There's no denying that the Integrity Commission has an important role to play in the architecture of Jamaica's anti-corruption system. And the truth is that there have been some developments that raises concern amongst members of the public, not least the unfortunate utterances of the executive director when an incident of shooting ensued involving a staff member of the commission. So to suggest that to ask the government, that is effectively implying that the government or some persons associated therewith had something to do with that incident of shooting. That you can't get more intemperate and unmeasured than that. And we saw Panton being less than measured in Parliament as well, when he said the things he said about water and whatnot.
Dueling Dragons is a game I like, and you're having a soft form of it here, and it will continue with point number 8, or story number 8, gentlemen. The no confidence motion attempt, which sparked the opposition walkout from the Parliament, led by, of course, the opposition leader Mark Golding Raymond, who said that, look, the rules were being unfairly applied as he tried to set this no-confidence motion in train against the Prime Minister.
I'll say something quickly. You shouldn't have used reference of dragons. I'm a Georgian. It's my practice to slay
Well, there
dragons.
you go. There you go,
If you
sir.
call in my friend Marlon a dragon. No, but the no-confidence motion was brought about by a series of activities, deliberate or unwittingly, in the Parliament. But you know the interesting thing? Forgive me if I pivot. The ultimate no-confidence motion was hinted at earlier by Marlon in terms of the big election this year. And I think if Jamaicans remember the word Clyde, like you love a food but you're tired of the food now, I think the ultimate no-confidence motion will be done by the ballot.
The people, some of the feelings coming out of that no-confidence motion attempt was that it was contrived. In fact, that's what the sitting House Speaker, Heroy Clark, acting instead, said. So you believe that that's how you want to look at that?
I concur with that observation. The truth of the matter is that this matter is now before the court. For the opposition leader to have sought to pounce in the way he sought to pounce was, in our view, politically opportunistic, and it was not merited as insofar as the moment within which we're operating.
Number 7, Mark.
But Raymond spoke to a particular, development that is going to happen later this year. Yes. The people will determine, the PNP is going to be banking on voter fatigue in terms of persons being, fatigued that they stay at the wicket of the Labour Party. But I'm trusting that folks are going to be looking at the runs on the board.
We're banking on Golding.
Use some more. Use some more words here, Mark.
Banking on Golding is not the best bet in town right now, having regards to what is going on with Proven. Shares are plummeting, and Proven's fortunes, as per its statement,
I wish I had some tea to drink.
Is plummeting.
He misunderstood me. I wasn't speaking about Bruce Golding.
No. Mark Golding. Mark is the man who is affiliated with Proven. Bruce is ensconced in retirement. Yes. I would big up Daddy Bruce.
Only retirement alone you ensconced him in?
Listen.
Gentlemen, order. Let me do my best, John Burke. Let me do my best, John Burke. Order. Mr. Price made suited to take some medicament to calm yourself. Thank you. Number 7 on the list. Marlon Morgan, how should Jamaicans begin to reconcile with the figure who is primus inter pares, first among equals, the Prime Minister, taking a commission of Parliament to court? We're talking about Andrew Holness's application for judicial review into that report prepared by the Integrity Commission concerning his statutory declarations, which have yet to be certified.
Some years ago, Raymond and I used to co-host a program on a particular radio station, The Breakfast Club. And several mornings, we used to make the observation and underscore the mantra: Jamaica, like any other democratic society, is a nation of laws, not of men. The Prime Minister, though primus inter pares, first among equals, he is a subject of Jamaican law like any one of us. And so to the extent that the Integrity Commission, in pursuance of his mandate, undertook its work and has furnished the Parliament with a report, and the Prime Minister, as the subject of that particular report, feels aggrieved by the findings or the omissions or commissions in that report, he, like any other citizen under Jamaican law, is able to avail himself of legal remedy, and that is what this legal action is about.
And so, Raymond, comrades will look at it and say it's not a good look.
It's beyond that, and it's not just about comrades, it's also about the precedent. 50 years from now, students at St. George's College and Kingston College and
Jonathan Grant,
right,
yes,
will look back at this moment and ask themselves, this man chairs cabinet. Cabinet approved the bill. He led the debate with much lusto and gusto. He campaigned on having achieved the elements therein. And the first time the axe falls and he is found wanting, his solution, his remedy is, I'm going to undo the law I celebrated, because instead of pointing finger over there, it point finger over here. And that is unscrupulous without previous measurement in our society.
But George, you'll appreciate that the Integrity Commission has a mandate to pursue. If it is found or felt that they have acted outside of their mandate and have no basis in law as to withhold the certification of the Prime Minister's statutory declarations, he is well within his right to take an action, and that should not be seen as either undermining the Integrity Commission or acting in a manner that is underhand.
His action wasn't to supply the information that is outstanding. His action was to ask the court, to foist upon the court his desire that the court would mandate the certification. You speak about acting in the remit. The court would have been acting ultra vires, which means acting outside of how they should act. If they then said, you must certify him, when the competent authority is saying, I need A, B, C, D, E, F to Z before
yesterday, Director of Investigations, his investigations are at an end for all intents and purposes. The Prime Minister, having regard to the services of his legal outfit at the time as well, would have furnished the IC with the particulars that they would have sought. What the Director of Investigation was seeking to impress upon the Prime Minister was for him to provide details as to expenses which he is not obliged to, so to do.
But
the Prime Minister, in the declarations and investigations, is obliged to set out his assets, his income, and his liabilities,
Hear you on
which
that.
he has done.
Hear you on that. Let's move to number 6, gentlemen. Let's call that one that you will never agree on. That report is number 6, because when that report dropped, I mean, there was a certain media host who had previewed an aspect of it that they caught heat for, because people were saying, well, you said this was the only thing.
You're downplaying. Yeah.
The media host, from my reading, my extensive reading, did not say only thing. It said this was one of the significant things. But anyway, that IC report on the Prime Minister's finances, Raymond Price, would a reasonable person reading that report leave reading it and still hold Andrew Holness in a positive light, you believe?
No. Simple answer, no.
Marlon, would someone reasonably read it and come out and think that their Prime Minister has questions to answer, or that he has no questions to answer?
Answers in the affirmative, and for this particular reason, because observers like myself are of the view that even the very editorializing that happened in that report was set out in a salacious way. A number of things were said that were not necessarily corroborated by fact or were not germane to the investigation and pursuit of a matter of illicit enrichment by the Director of Investigation. And it is for that reason and within that context that observers like myself are of the view that there is a witch hunt on against the Prime Minister by the Integrity Commission, as the Prime Minister himself has essentially, to paraphrase, has essentially alluded to in a press release he issued recently.
Well, gleaners like me have gleaned the following. If you have nothing to hide, present the information. It could be concluded that the Prime Minister is practicing a high level of obfuscation. And then to suggest, to purport that one of the things you're going to do as a remedy is to deprioritize the illicit enrichment section of the law rather than strengthening, to weaken it. Go back to the 2020 campaign. Marlon is very au fait with it. One of the key feathers in the Prime Minister's hat then was the achievement of all of the arrangements that are now called the Integrity Commission.
And
He's
the
now
handling of
trying to
COVID
disaggregate.
and the stabilization of the
He's
economy
trying to
and so on.
disaggregate that.
The Integrity Commission availed itself of the services of an independent international forensic accounting examiner.
And still couldn't certify the man.
That individual would have scrutinized the private and personal business
And
affairs of the
still
Prime Minister
couldn't certify
and
it.
was not able to establish, though we suspect persons, for example, at the Integrity Commission may have wanted to be able to so conclude, were not able to find adversely against the Prime Minister. And so, Raymond, what you have is an attempt to relitigate this matter in the sense that Kevin Stevenson conducted his investigation, was not able to make any or establish any finding adverse to the PM, and as such he's inviting another law enforcement entity now to come and ferret out or to do what he was not able to do in his substantive investigation. I think that's unfortunate.
You are aware, though, that the other agencies of which you refer, the FID and the TAJ, are a part of the state's apparatus for ferreting out hidden assets.
The DI's investigation is at an end, as he had ended up concluding in Parliament that same day when Panton was before the House.
So when I'm running a relay and
But that's
my
not how
time
the
comes to pass a button, my leg is at an end.
All right, but that's not how the law, the scheme of the legislation
That is
did not
exactly how
envisage
it-
that.
that's exactly
You were
how
not
it
able
does.
to do something in your body of work, and then you are seeking to conscript.
I'm dropping the gavel. I'm dropping the gavel, gentlemen. I'm dropping the gavel, gentlemen. All right, all right. Let's leave the politics, because thankfully number 5 is not political. The gentleman will agree that number 5, number five on our list, Raymond Price, Marlon Morgan. 16 people shot on a Sunday evening. 8 dead, including a child. The Cherry Tree Lane massacre, Raymond, is one of the dark days for this country, in a country that has had several dark days along these lines.
I'm glad you call it a massacre, because initially it was not being described as that. Words are important, or else would have invented something else. This concept of calling people crime producers, in the vernacular, producer is something positive, someone positive. Call them what they are, barbarians and criminals, and that massacre was unwarranted. There's no reason in human contemplation that could even come close to say, me do it because of X. And I'm happy to have witnessed an entire nation united in calling out that abhorrent act for what it was.
Marlon, the child shot, based on where his body was, crime scene experts say he was trying to take refuge beneath a car. With an ice cream beside
You
him.
can't get any more graphic and unsettling than that. The truth of the matter is that Cherry Tree Lane massacre that we had last year was one of the lower points of calendar year 2024. But one of the things it gives us insights, and law enforcement would underscore that as well, into the anatomy of criminality in Jamaica. The fact that the persons who perpetrated that crime would have cleverly gone about scouting out to know when the folks would have been in the space, to get a vehicle that they rented, to go into the space and make good their escape. But importantly, as law enforcement has been unearthing, there are elements to the prison system in relation to that thing that took place at Cherry Tree Lane. And so we want law enforcement to continue to stick to it and ensure that the phones and the access that these persons who are behind bars have to be able to give direction out in Jamaica, out into the free space to commission crimes, are intercepted.
And I hope they're getting the resources they need to acquire.
I must say, the government have resources.
Just a second. To acquire, to utilize, and to maintain the technology that is required to successfully stop these crimes.
Number 4. All I'll say for number 4, the story on this list, number 4. I'm going to ask a question and the story will become evident. It a tape?
It a tape?
Buzzer section? No, it's not the buzzer section. Vibes Cartel, Marlon Morgan, out after 13 years. I won't say the GG's pleasure, but 13 years locked up, a free man back on the road, back on the Gaza.
There's no doubt that when it comes down to Vybz Kartel, he is, a mega star, a person who has, ingratiated himself in the minds and psyche of many. Many of us would have been connoisseurs of his music in a dispensation past, notwithstanding elements of his lyrics in terms of violent commentary and so on. But the truth of the matter is that the justice system essentially is what we have before us. Vybz Kartel, just like Andrew Holness, availed himself of an appeals mechanism, and the Privy Council, it went all the way up to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council examined the matter, considered it, and found that it should be sent back to the Court of Appeal, having regard to the fact that there were issues in the primary case that, essentially prejudiced the deliberations and what would have been operating in the minds of the jury in the primary trial back in 2014.
Raymond, love him or hate him, many people said their hero was returned.
I put it this way very simply. Yes. He's a free man, and he took Freedom Street to the arena on September 15th.
To the stadium, my friend?
No, September 15th to the arena.
Oh, before, oh yes.
He took Freedom Street as a free man on September 15th to the National Arena to be among those of us celebrating at annual conference. I say no.
I thought you were going to go for the Red Bull, Red Bull culture clash that he was at.
But just to be clear.
As a free man.
As a free man. You can't beat that, Marlon.
Because remember, the morning after, a minister of government determined unto himself more power than even the UK Privy Council, and would have suggested that despite his liberation, going to the full extent of the law with a foolish retention of colonialism that these members of the crews could not have afforded were it not for Kartel's wealth and ISAT's skill. And he took his freedom on Freedom Street to the National Arena
to the conference
on September 15th.
There's a reason why we subscribe to us being a nation of laws, not of men, because Kartel, like any other citizen of Jamaica, can go to the public session of a political party of
why
his
did
choice.
Your minister
as
so?
it is. However, we have to understand where we diverge. So
you would have preferred if he had gone to...
No. I depart because to have Vybz Kartel and others on the stage, the optics of that, I believe, was just particularly poor.
Well, the optics of that is not one of my stories of 2024. Gentlemen, stick to the script. The script says number 3. The script says number 3.
And social media content.
Hold on, no. Gentlemen, order. The script says number 3. Mark Golding declaring that he's a UK citizen, Marlon Morgan.
Can I tell you, it was clear that Mark Golding, in the true traditions of a contortionist, would have sought to twist and turn and obfuscate and do all kinds of things.
Matthew Samuda give up his yet?
To essentially, Matthew Samuda is far down the wicket.
No, he has not yet given it up. So Matthew Samuda is still contorting.
No.
Matthew Samuda is still doing
but you have to understand the difference.
Matthew Samuda is still voguing around it.
But hold on, Raymond.
How come Mark Hunt finish and Matthew Hunt can't
do? You're not understanding
the point. You sure Matthew Start is?
You're not understanding the point.
Matthew Start relinquish his own yet?
Let's go with the point of departure.
2 of them were British, 3 of them. Julian has relinquished, Mark has relinquished. What's taking Matthew's own so long?
Can I make the point I'm making now?
Why is he still a British citizen in the cabinet?
Matthew Samuda was not the holder of a British passport at a point when he goes out.
Raymond, give him a chance to respond. Respond, Marlon, because you're not getting through. Hold on, no?
Raymond knows very well that volume does not increase the value of what you're saying. So just to be very clear.
So say it in
Raymond, I'm giving him some protection, Raymond. Go ahead, Marlon.
Just to be very, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
So just to be clear, Matthew Samuda, and I would say Julian Robinson as well, did not go out of their way to try and downplay the fact that they are British we call it persons who would have been associated with Britain. See? In the case of Mark Golding, he said, and the records are there across social media and elsewhere, that he had a British passport as a child, seeking to give the impression, seeking to mislead.
So
and that was British. The point there. Matthew has never sought to obfuscate or mislead.
British.
Until such time, in my view, that the British authorities give them that instrument that says, listen, you are now,
we have a British agent. We have a Britisher in our cabinet.
Gentlemen,
that's all I'm asking. Is Matthew still British or is Matthew no longer British?
Here's what I'm sure of.
Has never obfuscated.
Here's what I'm sure of. Gentlemen,
the question is,
gentlemen,
likes to ask.
Gentlemen, Mr. Price, Mr. Price, Mr. Morgan,
travel to the UK.
Mr. Morgan and
as
Mr.
a
Price.
British citizen.
Mr. Morgan and Mr.
Jamaican
Price.
passport.
Order. Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. Hold on. No. We're done with that. We're done with that. Gentlemen, order here. Here's the thing. Number one and number two. Number one and number two on the list is an issue that both these men will agree with. Hurricane Beryl did a real number on Jamaica in 2024. And the fact that JPS, between July 3 when Beryl struck, took until August 29 to complete the restoration of power to people who would have been miserable for over a month. That was the most significant body blow that the country collectively got in 2024. You would agree?
I think, absolutely. And I think the takeaway from Beryl is the resilience of the Jamaican economy, the fact that we have had a stable economy in terms of the debt to GDP ratio coming down, in terms of healthy net international reserves, in terms of where we are in terms of jobs. Unemployment at present is in the order of 4.2%. Inflation continues to remain in the lower band, the lower point in the inflation, the targeted band. And so your capacity as a country to build resilience and resilience in agriculture, which is what enables you to withstand the vicissitudes of weather.
Raymond,
because as Raymond said, you're not able to stop the system.
Raymond, your Beryl perspective.
Unfortunately, Beryl is the most recent hurricane that will affect Jamaica. It won't be the last. Last year, the most significant development last year, it's the 10th of 10 years of hottest years in a decade. So we've just come through the hottest decade ever. We have surpassed the mythical 1.5 degrees Celsius mark in terms of global warming, which means that Beryls are more likely to come than they were in the past. And I'm using this opportunity.
That's why I need good governments now to help navigate that.
Allow him to finish, Marlon.
Using this opportunity to say to each Jamaican at a household level, you need to mainstream climate mitigation and climate adaptation in your day-to-day life. Plan your travel, plan your purchases, begin to change how you consume things, as well as to begin to retrofit how you build and protect your homes and your family.
And thankfully, you're being appropriately supported by government.
Hear me now, gentlemen. Hear me now, gentlemen. Last one. We've exhausted our time, but I have to squeeze this in. Raymond, that one thing that you felt was big in 2024 that the news reviews the year in reviews didn't capture. Go ahead.
Local or international?
It no matter where. It could be at the International Space Station. Go ahead.
Ageism must be routed out of our consciousness. There is a particular performer that everybody said is tired and done, and she broke records all of last year. Had a concert in Rio de Janeiro. $1.6 million people showed up and broke all records in terms of concert earnings. And the second one, Freedom Street.
Yes.
Yeah, those
you were there?
Two. No.
You watched it on the Dodger stream like the rest of us?
I watched both of them via streams.
Oh, so
I wouldn't have taken.
So why is it a no like that?
No,
like
because
disassociate
no, I'm not. No. The reason why I said no is watching it at home. I saw more than the persons who had VIP.
Marlon, you're a big one from 2024. That was.
So just to be clear, one of the most seminal developments and outtakes from 2024 was that riveting Klansman gang trial. We saw elements of our criminal justice system working in tandem, collaborating well, including state witnesses, persons who were previously within the gangs, but they were able to essentially serve as persons who are providing witness statements and so on to law enforcement. And the fact that we have a black man, at least his faction of the Klansman gang now out of commission, it means that the people over in Jones Avenue are that much more safer now, and Jamaica as a whole is that much safer in terms of the Klansman gang being considerably weakened. And we need to sustain it and keep at it, because we understand that criminal networks seek to regroup and seek to reorganize. So whether they are one order or Klansman, law enforcement should pursue gangs and get them out of commission.
I was doing a brilliant job keeping my time, but these two gentlemen are rambunctious. But that's why we have them here, and I'm sure you were thoroughly entertained.
So you're not going to ask us what we're looking forward to most in 2025?
No.
Okay.
So what are you most looking forward to in 2025?
Victory Day. Victory Day.
Barnard,
Defeat day. You're
putting
looking for defeat
putting
day.
your ex beside the bed.
We both
I hear you on that. I hear you on that,
Put your
gentlemen.
ex squarely beside the bed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And on behalf of my production team, I need to name everybody. Tracy Lyle, our Business Development Executive. Nigel Austin on camera. I always want to say Nigel Ellis, but Nigel I can't run fast. It's slow. Jamal Tucker, also on the videography. Their supervisor, Ricardo Brooks. Jermaine King, the head of the technical department. Our driver, Kimberly Rowe. Dana Davey, our producer, the lady who's responsible for Nationwide at 5. And I want to thank all of you who have collaborated. The AC Hotel. I always do that to her. AC Hotel, who gave us accommodation. And of course, she always believes that I don't praise her enough because she wants me to build a shrine to her and worship every day. Sonia Stewart.
May or may not have threatened me to be here today.
I think so. Hold on the native. Sonia Stewart, you are a gem. Thank you for the work that you've done. And thanks to the gentlemen once again. This was a Nationwide 90 FM production.
There you have it, Nationwide's year in review for the year 2024. Were you keeping track on your list? How many stories on your list made it? How many stories didn't? 2025 obviously promises to be an even more exceptional year. Of course, the big one will be the general election. Let's see if anything tops that and whether in January 2026 we'll be saying that the result of the election was a top story this year. 19 minutes after 7, we go for the break and come back with more.
GK1 now introduces third-party motor insurance from GK General Insurance. Download and log into the GK1 app, then select one of 3 affordable third-party options. The time by GK General Insurance is...
Boog says I'm to remind you that it's still 19 minutes after 7.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Get ready for a day of inspiration and innovation at UCC BDCI's Conversations for Greatness. Join us on January 23 at 10 a.m. at UCC, 17 Worthington Avenue in Kingston for an exciting and informative day of activities. Connect with industry leaders like Michael Andre Collins, join interactive workshops, and witness a live pitch competition that could transform business ideas into reality. Don't wait. Visit www.bdci.co to register now. Conversations for Greatness, where great minds meet and future leaders are made.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, will host the Health and Wellness Career Expo and Employment Fair, January 22 and 23 at 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Attendees from all schools are asked to confirm participation via email to rsvpcareerexpo@moh.gov.jm. Expect interactive booth displays, entertainment, free health screenings, and more. See you at the 2025 Health and Wellness Career Expo and Employment Fair. A career in health, the roadmap to success.
It's Earthquake Awareness Month. We're raising awareness about earthquakes in the Seismic Dialogue. The Seismic Dialogue is brought to you by Digital Commodities, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited, and the Real Estate Board.
Good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for staying with us here Nationwide at 5. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm still Ricardo.
And it's now time for our feature, Seismic Dialogue, a segment aimed at promoting earthquake preparedness and safety. Of course, January is being observed as Earthquake Awareness Month. It's being observed under the theme Prepare for the Quake, Reduce the Impact of the Shake this year.
This year's theme highlights the importance of readiness and resilience. For the duration of this month, we'll have this segment on a Monday at 7. It's being sponsored by Digital Commodities Limited, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, and Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited. And this week, we're focusing on scientific research on earthquakes and the significance. For that, we're being joined by Head of the Earthquake Unit at the UWI, Kevin Tanku. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start by discussing some of the latest technological advancements in earthquake detection and monitoring, because I actually recall a parliamentarian attempted to make a case that we could have a earthquake, some type of alert, he was saying, that would tip us off when an earthquake was coming.
Are we there
Right.
yet?
Well, no, we're not there yet. Well, one of the things, seismology in itself is a very old science that particularly looks at, the earthquake disaster management parameters. So over the years, we've seen quite a significant advancement with regards to a lot of the technology that goes into what we use for earthquake detection. So this would include, looking at seismometers or accelerometers, which are the devices that detect the ground motion or the shaking itself. We've seen quite a considerable improvement in the technology behind that. This, of course, is more within the electrical engineering sort of field, the instrumentation sort of field, where they are able to detect a far greater range or very specific narrow range of the ground shaking or the type of waves that you get from seismic activity. Now, we know that this, of course, any type of shaking can be as a response of different type of events. We have, of course, the natural events, which are like the earthquakes. You have volcanic activity, but then you have to also consider the man-made events. You have activity from mining or quarrying when they do their blasting and so on. But you also have nuclear events that you have to also consider.
Mm-hmm.
So, the advancements within the technology behind the detection itself has gone quite a way in the last 20 years or so. Apart from that, we've also seen considerable emphasis on the Internet of Things and, different type of communication networks. Of course, for us to be able to, in real time, see our data, you require a robust data communication network that can stream your data live. This is where your various applications also can utilize that incoming data to be able to detect earthquakes. And, this is something that we continue to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
But we also see a lot of emphasis being put behind remote sensing, robotics, and drones, particularly for the use of examining different areas of interest, as well as with regards to the communication, such as utilizing optical fibers as sensors or acoustic sensors. So it's a continuing field. I think behind the electronics, there's a lot of global support, a lot of independent companies and research institutions that are focused on this area.
So Mr. Tanku,
Yes?
Forgive the naivety or the stupidity of the question, but I'm thinking of my listeners. So, where are we? Is there any movement that we have made to use or to identify a predictor that a shake is about to come? Anything at all?
The predictor, well, the predictor itself is based on your research. So this sort of takes us into the scientific research realm, where understanding your fault characteristics are quite important, as this sort of helps you understand, okay, which areas are active, which are the faults that we should be looking at, and of course, this in turn sort of leads to where we can better monitor and better look at, detection.
Mm. And how do advancements in what's called seismology, how have those helped to improve earthquake preparedness and response strategies?
Well,
all that we've learned from the technology.
Mm-hmm. Well, with seismology itself, now earthquakes itself, it's not restricted to just seismology. There's, of course, you have your geologists, your geophysicists. You have various elements that go into earthquakes, particularly studying earthquakes. However, we've seen considerable improvements with earthquake detection and monitoring systems, particularly with the GPS technology that they utilize to track seismic activity and utilizing sort of more advanced seismometer to detect initial seismic waves. This initial wave itself might not be felt by humans, but your devices detect these, and of course it can send alerts to your centralized system.
And in terms of how we're building in Jamaica, have we studied whether our building practices, techniques are advanced enough to hold up to any kind of potential shake that may come in the future?
Well, with respect to the buildings itself, I think, we've seen over the last few years some sort of emphasis, particularly on the building codes, as well as, construction with these high rises as well. And of course, we have a lot of advances in terms of how we then look at, how these structures will stand up to earthquakes. So, this is what we look at when we refer to site-specific studies, particularly in areas that we tend to develop in the Caribbean. Across the Caribbean, we see that we develop along our coastal regions. Of course, this is for several reasons that we develop these areas. And what tends to happen along the coastal regions, particularly in Jamaica, is that we have a different sediment type than, say, hard rock. So you might have alluvium, different types of soil, etc. And these different site-specific conditions are what are responsible for the level of ground shaking that you feel. So by understanding some of the subsurface characteristics, we can better be able to understand how the structures would actually stand up. Although you build to a building code itself, you have to keep in mind that, your building itself is not designed to, I would say, sustain an earthquake or several earthquakes. It's designed to give you enough time to be able to evacuate and to be able to save lives that way. So, of course, this is something that we continue to look in site-specific conditions for Jamaica. It's not something that you can say we utilize information or data from elsewhere in the world, as our conditions itself, our geology is quite, it's specific to the country itself.
Yeah. You mentioned fault lines. And for Jamaicans who may not actively follow these things, may not know, what are some of the fault lines that Jamaica should be concerned about, and how active have they been in recent months or years?
Okay, well, the fault lines themselves, one thing we need to understand is that our local faults actually tie into a regional framework of tectonics. And the position of the location of Jamaica, particularly on the Caribbean plate, between North American plate and the Caribbean plate, puts us at that risk. And it's that continued motion of these plates that generates these earthquakes. They continue to move. The faults them accommodate that movement itself, and at times you get that release of stress. Or that sort of release or that shaking that you generate from there. Now, in terms of how we actually look at faults, one thing that for a long-standing time we've been trying to understand more is exactly what are the fault characteristics, what are some of the unknown factors, particularly with the fault mechanics, how they move, what is the likelihood for them to generate substantial earthquakes. And we know that across the island we have several types of faults. Of course, some of them may be active, some of them may be dormant or inactive, and some of them may be locked. And these are the ones that we would pay particular attention to by trying to investigate and look at which faults themselves may actually be locked and have the potential to generate a significant seismic event.
And when you say they're locked, what do you mean?
When we say they're locked, that means they're, it's like movement is restricted. And this can be because of a number of factors. Again, the faults are not just a straightforward interpretation. Jamaica itself is dissected by numerous faults trending in different directions. And these different directions tend to propagate as a result of different tectonic stress. So you get that stress from the different type of fault motions, or you get that release of stress from the different type of faults themselves. So something that we need to also understand is that some of the faults are potentially those areas that have that have sort of a potential to generate large earthquakes. However, some of the faults themselves are pretty short in terms of the length of the faults themselves. And because of this, you may get significant seismic activity, but it might not be something that would cause any destruction or damage.
So,
But again,
go ahead, complete your point.
But again, this is something that, it's ongoing. It's not like atmospheric sciences where we have sort of, global trends to look at or something that we can look at regional data particularly. It's something that we have to investigate on a local and a sub-regional scale.
So I'm aware that we have mapped where the fault lines are in Jamaica. Isn't that so?
For the most part, I think there's significant work that has been done over the last 30 years with sort of updating these maps, looking at what are actually faults versus these lineations that you can see from a map or so, from satellite imagery. And ground truthing. So ground truthing is very important in terms of understanding what are actually faults versus what can be joints or what can be, areas that have been identified as faults, but they're not actually faults.
The question I want to go to, though, is we have largely mapped fault lines in Jamaica, but are we tracking how active these fault lines are in terms of their movement?
That's an excellent question, and this comes to the GPS technology that I've mentioned earlier. The GPS technology is what they utilize, what helps the scientists to sort of track that seismic activity. And Jamaica has been long-standing in terms of GPS work. So for quite some time, we've had collaborations with external universities or research bodies that use these temporary installations of GPS monuments. And this is what they use or utilize to be able to track plate motion. So over the years, you start to build up a picture of which areas are moving, what are the rates they're moving at, and you can get a better understanding, I guess, in terms of which areas tend to, accumulate more stress or which areas are releasing that sort of buildup.
Yes. And if we have been doing that to a certain extent, next question, where are we seeing the greatest movement?
Well, we look at it not just from a local context, but from the regional scale. And we see that a lot of movement is particularly concentrated in eastern Jamaica. And this can be as a result of that Enriquillo Planting Garden fault zone that passes through Jamaica into Haiti. That same fault is what would have caused the earthquake in Haiti in 2021, I believe, as well as 2010. And we know historically there are a lot of unknowns before monitoring and, a lot of scientific activity in Jamaica. So 1907, 1692, there are a lot of unknown characteristics behind these faults. These are why, it's not just a singular approach to how we look at earthquakes itself. It's really a consortium of different specializations that are required to be able to generate, interpretations or understandings that would stand up to scientific scrutiny.
Okay. Thank you very much. Head of the Earthquake Unit at the University of the West Indies, Kevin Tanku. And I would imagine, Mr. Tanku, we do collaborate closely with our colleagues around the region in Trinidad, I would imagine, and elsewhere.
Sure, yes, we do. We do with Cuba. We're part, again, seismic networks are not specific only to a country. We also connect to regional systems and to global systems, and this is what helps provide redundancy as well as an overall picture.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kevin Tanku.
Thank you.
Good. That was Seismic Dialogue.
It's Earthquake Awareness Month. We're raising awareness about earthquakes in the Seismic Dialogue. The Seismic Dialogue was brought to you by Digital Commodities, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited, and the Real Estate Board.
Apply for your Sagicor Bank Preferred Prepaid MasterCard today. Load your remittances for everyday spending. Receive cash transfers from any local bank. The time by Sagicor Bank is
7:36.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall.
Upper total tools.
Weed whacker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slipe Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Get ready for a day of inspiration and innovation at UCC BDCI's Conversations for Greatness. Join us on January 23 at 10 a.m. at UCC, 17 Worthington Avenue in Kingston for an exciting and informative day of activities. Connect with industry leaders like Michael Andre Collins, join interactive workshops, and witness a live pitch competition that could transform business ideas into reality. Don't wait. Visit www.bdci.co to register now. Conversations for Greatness, where great minds meet and future leaders are made.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. When choosing your home or business to rent or buy, check if the building is earthquake resistant per local building codes. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. Telephone 876-960-8359.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5 on the final lap. Now we turn to the United States because he's back. Donald Trump took the oath of office as the 47th president just after midday, just about 2 minutes after 12. I was watching. He didn't put his hand on the Bible, but he took the oath, and that's what the Constitution requires. Yeah, the swearing-in happened in the United States Capitol Rotunda. He's the second president following Grover Cleveland to serve non-consecutive terms. He's also the first convicted felon to hold the U.S.'s highest office.
In his inaugural address, Trump vowed, quote, "The golden age of America begins right now," end of quote. He listed his priorities on trade, immigration, and national security. President Trump also used the occasion to criticize Joe Biden, who sat nearby. Here's an excerpt from Trump's speech from Sky News.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country. Sunlight is pouring over the entire world. And America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn. From weeks ago, without even a token of defense, they're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their... From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
The 47th President of the United States, and as we speak, he is in the Oval Office signing a flurry of executive orders. He has pardoned the January 6 rioters. He called them earlier today hostages, and their family members, I understand, are gathered, Cliff, outside jails in Washington because we expect that they will be released now that they have received presidential pardons from Donald Trump. I just want to say one thing. I was watching him earlier. He was in an Arena 1, in front of his supporters. If he could only master himself, he would have the potential, I think, to really be a transformative president. Here's why I say that. he has clearly bent the American political, legal, and cultural system to his will, right? And I think if he were a different man, a more disciplined man, a man with principles, he could be transformative. But for the fact that he will get in his own way, I don't expect that. But the kind of political, legal, cultural power he has amassed over the last decade, he could really change that country if he just mastered himself. But I don't think he can help that.
But therein lies a contradiction, because he cannot master himself because he is who he is. Yeah. A man who is without principle. Yeah. A man who is entirely transactional. A man who gives no time for what you call values. Yeah. And as such, I think it's only a matter of time for us to see that all begin to fall apart. Yeah. When the several promises to cut costs, to make the border secure, when all of those, start to come apart because he's not going to be able to fulfill a lot of them, then what is seemingly, that potential transformational prospect will blow up.
Yes. Yeah. He has now, CNN is saying, he has signed an executive order on birthright citizen. He promised that he would end birthright citizen guaranteed by the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Of course, a U.S. president cannot change the Constitution by executive order, so that sets up a legal battle. We expect that it will be challenged almost immediately in court, and that is going to be a real test as to whether he has completely commandeered this Supreme Court. Because it will be interesting to see whether they accept what many scholars are saying is a crackpot legal argument.
Yes.
That because illegal immigrants are not, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, then their children cannot be automatic citizens.
Yes. And he's determined to go down that route.
He has signed it. CNN just reported.
He has signed it?
Yes, CNN just said that he had signed it. He's now signing a national emergency at the southern border. Of course, he had declared that before, and he had redirected in his last term in office federal funds to build that wall. Never quite got it finished. Let's see how he fares over these 4 years.
Well, Americans and the world are in for a rough ride for certainly the next 2 years. Because in 2 years, he will have to face the American people again.
Sure.
Yeah? And history is not kind. Yeah? After 2 years as incumbent president, you usually get a walloping.
In the midterms.
In the midterms.
Right, and the Republicans barely hold on to the House as it stands now. So we'll see what happens. He has pardoned 1,500 January 6th.
Defendants.
CNN calls them defendants. I'm going to call them rioters.
Yes.
And he has commuted the sentence of 6 of them. Yeah.
I will go further. Yes. 1,500 January 6 co-defendants.
Well, I won't use co-defendants. There is not currently an active case against the sitting U.S. president.
Oh, dear.
Of course, those cases were dropped in accordance with DOJ policy. He has his first cabinet secretary in place. The Senate, about an hour ago, confirmed Marco Rubio
as
of
U.S. Secretary?
Florida as the Secretary of State. 99-0, unanimous.
Yes.
That he was confirmed. So he has his first cabinet secretary in place. And there are more votes teed up in the Senate over the next couple of days to give him his full cabinet. Yeah. What do you make of how Joe Biden wielded the clemency and pardon power in the final days of office?
The first thing that comes to mind, he just sucked it to Trump. He attempted to juke him in the eye.
Yes.
And say, yes, we know you're coming, yeah, and I'm going to juke in your eye. And that's the least Biden could have done.
Yeah.
yeah, to try to head off some of the declared intentions of Trump. Yeah. Well, the question I've been considering recently, how will history judge Joseph R. Biden's one-term presidency?
I said last evening, I posted on social media, he achieved a lot, but the signature issue on which he ran, we must remind ourselves, was to save the soul of America.
From Donald Trump.
From Donald
coming
Trump.
back.
Absolutely. In that, he failed spectacularly.
Absolutely.
And I think history will judge him harshly for that, because there's a point where you have to recognize your own frailties,
Yeah.
your own humanity, and he took far too long. In fact, he was forced
to go.
The lure of power consumed him in a way that he ultimately failed to do what he set out to do,
Right.
which was to protect America from Trump. That I think he will be judged harshly for.
Yeah.
Historians will look back on that as a failure, I think.
I think that is a fair assessment, because he broke the deal.
Yeah.
The deal in 2020 was to stop Trump.
Yes.
He did that. Yeah? Beg your pardon. By 2022, he should have indicated, I'm not going back, in keeping with my word.
Yeah. And that might have allowed for a more, open consultative process for the Democrats to try to find who was the best person.
Yes.
And that's not to say I blame Kamala Harris at all. She did the best she could under the circumstances.
100 days to go.
Yeah, but Biden seriously miscalculated. He did.
And I think as a result, history will not be kind to him. Yeah, will not be. Yeah. Especially if Trump turns out to be a disaster. Yeah.
I hear you on the point of it was the best he could do to try to head off Trump. My fear, though, is that he has opened the door for Donald Trump to absolutely abuse that presidential privilege. For example, a preemptive pardon is a very tricky thing. And I'm hoping it's tested in court. But what if Donald Trump were to commit crimes in office and attempt to preemptively pardon himself? He would be clothed in the fact that there is no a former precedence for this. It's never been done before. And so for Biden to preemptively pardon folks, that makes me a bit uncomfortable. I understand why he felt he had to, but preemptive, no. I don't think that's how it was meant to be used.
Right, right. Well, you see, what Biden did is a consequence of Trump, because he knew it was a real possibility that Trump would exact revenge.
People like Liz Cheney.
Absolutely.
Mark Milley.
Yes.
Anthony Fauci, yes.
So if it were not for Trump and his proclivities, I don't think Biden would have gone down that road. Yeah.
It's to be seen what happens now. Yeah. I saw somebody say day 1 of 4 years.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So it's now the Gulf of America, not the Gulf of Mexico anymore.
He says he has signed a proclamation renaming the Gulf to the Gulf of America. I'm not sure he has that authority. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Well, I tell you, I don't know, but I see on Twitter a while ago a post with Elon Musk giving the Nazi salute. Is that real?
I don't think
it's a concoction.
So I don't think I'd put it as strong as a Nazi salute. He gave a salute which evoked the memory of the Nazi salute.
Oh.
The question is, was that his intention? He sort of slapped his heart, and then he did So, but I wouldn't strictly call it a Nazi salute.
Yeah.
But the question is, was that his intention?
Yeah. Well, so it's the reign of the billionaires in American politics. Yeah. I will not be uncharitable by saying what we will be seeing is a kleptocracy, the likes of which we have never seen before.
Yeah. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. I remind my friends in 2008, the Republicans thought they were left for dead after Obama's massive victory.
Yeah.
2 years later, the Democrats,
back.
the Democrats were beaten badly.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And I think you may very well see that again.
Yeah. The pendulum swings.
But Trump is a very able politician.
True.
Very able politician. True. And he may be able to defy that political tradition.
And as I said, let's see if he masters himself.
How can he master himself?
Because, you know, can I be frank? Can I be frank? And I've said it before. I've said it before in this program. There are things he stands for that I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
It's the man. The absence of principle just makes me believe he's unfit for leadership. But he has policy ideas that are good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not fit to lead people.
Yeah. All right, that's where we're going to leave it this evening. Yes. It's a historic day in global history, American history. The return of Donald John Trump to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's day one of his return to the White House. Thanks to our YouTubers, our producer, Dana Davey, our technical operator, Andrew Anderson. And of course, thanks to the members of the news and production team led by our editor, Cara Powell. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Ricardo Brooks.
Reminding you, take care of your loved one and look out for your neighbor. Good evening.
Are you equipped to protect your organization?